start off with a prayer by Darian with Wagner Engineering. Say the prayer, followed by Will saying the pledge. So we all stand, please.
Good morning. Let us pray. Father, we come to you this morning, Lord God, with humble hearts, Lord God. We just thank you for allowing us to assemble here once again, Lord, to conduct the business, official business of Madison County, Lord. And we ask right now a special prayer on the elected officials, Father, that you just touch their minds, Father, that they may make decisions, policy, Lord God, that continues to have a positive impact on the growth and the quality of life of the citizens of Madison County, Lord. We also ask for a prayer among the staff, Father God, as they are responsible for execution of these policies, Lord God, and maintaining the city and how it operates on a day-to-day basis, Lord. And we ask right now that this meeting be conducted decently and in order, Father, that is pleasing in thy sight. In these men are blessed in your darling Son. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Darian. Will?
Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Lott, you're up with the
President, you
minutes.
have before you the board minutes for May the 1st, 2023 in hard copy and on your iPads. I would ask if there are no changes, the board please approve said minutes.
Do I have a motion for approval?
I move.
Motion from Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Supervisor Jones. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Lott, you're still up. At this point, we are looking at rearranging the agenda just for a little, for 3 or 4 items. So, Mr. Lott?
Yes, Mr. President. I have before me a resolution from the Board of Supervisors. Oh, somebody changed my chair.
Mr. Lott, do you
My chair,
mind, would you mind coming up over this way and
Yes, sir.
and speaking?
On the microphone.
Yes, sir. This is a very special occasion right now.
Whereas on February the 15th, 1994, Cynthia A. Parker, right here, was hired as deputy clerk in the Land Records Division of the Chancery Clerk's Office, and whereas over the next 30 years, Cynthia A. Parker rendered diligent, faithful, honest, and efficient service to the citizens of Madison County by serving as county purchase clerk, hope we got all this right, secretary to the Madison County Board of Supervisors, chief deputy, chancery clerk, and for a period of 9 months as a duly appointed interim Madison County chancery clerk. And whereas over that same period, 5 duly elected chancery clerks, hope we got this right too, Billy Cooper, Steve Duncan, Charles Weems, Arthur Johnston, and myself, Ronnie Lott, all came to trust and rely on Cynthia Parker for her keen insight and institutional knowledge, and also for her high integrity and friendly attitude, which guided, motivated, and compelled her to hold as her number one priority the offering of honest, accurate, and proficient service to the citizens of Madison County and the customers of the Chancery Clerk's Office. And whereas Cynthia Parker, while working on behalf of the Madison County Chancery judges, Madison County Chancery clerks, and members of the Board of Supervisors, was also able to maintain a cherished family life as well as wife to Barry Parker, mother to Melissa Adams, Kate Harris, and Rob Parker, and grandmother to Ava Parker, Cooper, and Banks, who now are well pleased and anticipates that after 3 decades in service to a demanding public, their beloved wife, mother, and grandmother will now have more valuable time to spend with them. And whereas when Ronnie Lott, the current Chancery Clerk, was asked what Cynthia Parker did in the Chancery Clerk's office, he simply replied, everything. An honest confession to which everyone who worked with Cynthia would agree, which because of her informational dominance, instinctive actions, and institutional impact, earned her not only the admiration of all, but also the respective nickname as the boss. As the veritable go-to person in the Chancery Clerk's office, and whereas after 30 years of said faithful service, and upon her decision to retire, the Madison County Board of Supervisors, in association with the Madison County Chancery Clerk's office, desires to demonstrate its grateful appreciation to Chief Deputy Chancery Clerk Cynthia Parker for her tireless efforts on behalf of the county, which has prospered over her tenure in many ways due to the impact of her dedicated service. Now therefore be it resolved, ordered, and directed that as grateful appreciation and as tangible demonstration of his respect for the honest, continuous, tireless, and professional services of Cynthia Parker for the duly elected judges, chancery clerks, members of the Board of Supervisors, board attorneys, and all municipal officials in the county, but moreover for the unparalleled level of service that she rendered to the citizens of Madison County for the next 30 years, the Madison County Board of Supervisors does hereby adopt, approve, and present this resolution of commendation to Cynthia Parker, Chief Deputy Chancery Clerk, and directs the Board President would affix his signature to the same, and after its recording within the official minutes of the Madison County Board of Supervisors, said resolution be delivered to Cynthia Parker and her family. So, there.
Make that motion, Gerald.
I'll second
I
that
got a
motion.
motion made by Supervisor Griffin, second by Supervisor Banks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Parker? On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, we thank you for being a pillow to us as well. You're a pillow to the Board of Supervisors, this community, for the many years. And I heard Mr. Lott say about the trust that he has in you. Of course, the Board of Supervisors had that trust as well. So we thank you for the many years and the dedication that you have given over, and that we here appreciate it tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ronnie, I think you wanted a picture, or
That'd be good.
did the other?
Everybody?
Whoever you
All
want.
right, come on, we'll go out front then, right here.
Sure.
And
Yeah, right
We'll
there.
take the picture.
I'm coming. Don't we want to let her recover?
I know that ain't won't be the day.
Michael? You in here too.
Let's go. Sure.
You want to get up in here?
Come on, Ronnie, you out front.
Yeah, you right there. Come on, get back here. Right, thank you. We definitely gonna miss you. So we got to call Ronnie for the court. You just making our job harder, we gotta call Ronnie.
We gonna be up the creek if we got a car, right?
A resolution that was well-deserved.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along, like I said, we want to change up the agenda just a little because we do have some people here that doesn't get here very often, maybe once a year. And that is our Highway Commissioner, Mr. Willie Simmons. Come on up to the podium, and our MDOT, Mr. Brad White, MDOT Executive Director. Mr. White, if you would, just come on up and support your Highway Commissioner as you always do. We appreciate it. The day is a very important day, and the Commissioner is going to bring us some updates on what's going on in Madison County. So, Mr. Commissioner, appreciate you being here. Thank you much.
Thank you, President Steen. To members of the board and all the elected officials, to include my friend the sheriff, thank you for being here to protect me from the Board of Supervisors.
All right.
Let me just say how grateful I am to be back here with the Board of Supervisors. Madison County, I think, if I was to add my miles up and put the number of stops that I made in all of the 22 counties that we represent as commissioner, Madison County, we have had more stops in Madison County probably than any other county in the state. Part of that has to do with what you do here in Madison County. And you, the Board of Supervisors, are the leading government entity in the county. You all do a great job of planning. and putting together and collaborating. And as a result of it, you get a lot of good things. So as your commissioner, I'm always pleased and honored. I am grateful today to have Brad White, who we stole from Governor Reeves, his chief of staff, to come to be our CEO. Brad had already been with the Department of Transportation, but he came home, and he's doing a fantastic job as our CEO. So I'm so grateful to have him with us. And there's not too many Board of Supervisors meetings that both Brad and I will show up at the same time. So the fact that we're here again, it says a lot about Madison County and what you're doing and what the plans are for you. We also have other staff members from the MDOT, and we bring them with us because we know here in Madison County, Supervisor Jones and all of you supervisors are going to have many questions about various roads. So we have the man, Neil Patterson, who actually run the day-to-day operation in District 5 as the chief engineer, along with Lee Fredericks, who is handling a project, LPA project, here in Madison County, the reunion project for you all. Quickly, let me just say, once again, due to the fact that you are growing you are getting a lot of attention, and we want to give thanks to our state legislature. State legislature has been really good to the Department of Transportation over the past years, but in particular, the past 2 years in the manner in which the amount of monies that we've been able to get from the federal government, as well as the state. The state legislature has really kicked in and done a lot of good things to help us move projects. This year, you noticed that they gave us $450 million. That $450 million was for capacity projects. And you probably look at the news media and you say, well, we don't see our name in a capacity project. But yes, you do. Your name is there. It's just not in the capacity project in the manner in which the capacity project was laid out, because the capacity projects was centered around what we refer to as our 3-year plan. And our 3-year plan is put together by we, the 3 commissioners of transportation, Commissioner Caldwell, Commissioner King, and myself, along with the staff. And when we put together a 3-year plan, it means that we are going to track and move projects along down the highway, so to speak, not kicking the can down the road. Madison County is very much involved in the 3-year plan because we made a commitment that we were going to get projects what we call shovel-ready. The 3-year plan that the legislature funded from our 3-year plan project was what they call shovel-ready projects, what we call shovel-ready projects. So those are some projects that are identified in some other areas of the state, which we will commit monies to, but when we roll those projects off, then those other projects are being shovel-ready and moved up. 2 projects in your area that you are looking at is very important to you, and then I'll talk about some other projects, but I-55 widening and the reunion project. Those 2 projects are very important to taking care of your growth. The governor, and we attended that a few months ago, came up and identified your mega site, which is going to be great for you because there are a few counties that have mega sites, and that means that you are ready, shovel-ready to bring industry in. With that site coming into Madison County, along with Amazon making the commitment to come to Madison County, and Nissan making the commitment that they're going to build electric vehicles here in Madison County, you are right. And you need all the infrastructure that you can get. So as a result of that, we know that I-55 has to be widened, so we are partnering with the federal government as well as with the state legislature to move that project. That's a very big project. It's time-consuming. It's a planning process that must go into it in order to get it ready. And we're talking about from 463 to the Gluckstadt Road project that you are very interested in. That project is estimated right now to cost about $50 million. If we were to move it now, as you well know, with inflation and everything, it may cost more than that when we get to it. But we are moving that project to get it shovel ready. And as we move these other projects through the capacity to make that happen, then we are going to be ready to move that project when we get all the funds in. So we're working with the federal government, we're working with the Board of Supervisors in your municipalities in Madison County to make that work. We feel like that project is going, that project is going to happen because there's a need. The federal government knows it, the widening of it, but also it's going to be able to help with your industrial growth that you've done. In addition to that, the reunion project, the legislature and the federal government are committed to that project along with MDOT. As you well know, the legislature thinks it's given about $13 million in the past. You were about to lose some of those dollars because the legislature, in giving it to you, put a time frame as to when that money was to move. And that's why we moved it to an LPA project. An LPA project means that we, the Department of Transportation, and that's what Lee Frederick is working with your engineer to make sure that that project is moved. In addition to the $13 million, the federal government, I believe, put $10 million into it. And then on top of that, this past legislative session, the legislature came back and gave an additional $12 million. So you on board to move that project, and that's a county project, but we are working through the LPA process. In addition to that, we've done a lot of paving in Madison County, about $28 million worth of paving, and you can see that on 463, 22. We're going to be looking at 51 to move that project, I think, next year. Highway 16, yes. Supervisor Griffin. The last time I was here, I was jumped on by Supervisor Griffin because he said I was only taking care of you, Gerald. But Highway 16 it's been done in the city limits of Kenton, but also we now have let it to go to Farm Haven. So that project is moving, and eventually we would get 16 done all the way from the interstate over to the Alabama line because 16 is very much needed. But 22 is also, and then after we deal with those capacity projects, we know that because you built a school over around 463, that project is very important, so we have it into our priority plan. So as your commissioner, and along with Brad, the CEO, and the staff, we are taking care of putting the dollars in the 3-year plan for the pre-construction work to be dealt with for all of those projects that we're talking about, especially the widening of Interstate 55, the reunion project, and working with you on that, as well as 463, because we're doing some work on that project and have just completed a project. The biggest complaint that we got was slowing down the traffic, and we get that everywhere. So we would just like for you, the Board of Supervisors, to make sure that everybody understands in the community that when we come in to do all of this good work, progress, we need patience along with it, and the traffic will be shifted. But we do all kinds of things as we work toward building a project with our traffic control, making sure that safety is there, but also making sure that we do it when we can move the traffic as best we possibly can. We have a lot of our employees get injured and killed during the work site because citizens have a tendency to want to get where they're going fast as they possibly can and speed through it. So work with us and helping us do that. But we're going to work towards taking care of your projects. I think I kind of covered everything. Did I miss anything? Okay. So we'll answer any question.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all both being here, as we said, and Lee, Neil, y'all as well. Just kind of get a little bit more. The county is heading up Bozeman Road, the Reunion Crossing that you mentioned, and also Phase 3 from Parkway East to Highway 51. And that's about estimate $110 million that the county is involved in. The widening of the interstate, to kind of bring it back to that a little, what I'm hearing you say is that y'all have already contracted with the engineer, and they are actually doing the design, the right-of-way. Am I correct on that at this point?
Utilities, yes, sir.
Utilities, and so that would be done within the 3 years.
That's referred to as our pre-construction kind of things that we do. And we have the monies committed to doing those kinds of activities. Yes, sir.
So the money is there, and so that is ongoing at this point. Also, on the Phase 3 on Highway 51 at Green Oak. And that Phase 3 project, there's a signal station. Can you give us an update on that?
Neil, would you talk about that?
Well, there's an
Come on up to the microphone, please.
Yes, sir. We're currently working on that project. We've tried to we had some utility conflicts, and we're working through AT&T and had trouble with the water there, but I think we've got all that about worked out and hopefully going to let that one pretty soon.
And you say pretty soon, you think by the next 3 months or so?
I would hope so. Yes, sir. I hope so.
And so with that, and I know you're looking at
I
the
would hope so.
calendar. I was at a CMPDD meeting last week, and they handed out some info, and I think I saw on that info that it's scheduled maybe
It's
the
scheduled
fall,
for July right now.
the July. And,
That's right now. Yes, sir.
Yes, and we know things could change.
Yes, sir. That's just depending on the utilities. But that's based on their current schedule, but those schedules change too. And we
And
don't
so
have
we
any
should,
control over that, but
We
yes,
should
sir.
see a signal light up sometime this year then.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
unless something major change.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, other board members?
Why you got the mic there?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask about 16 East, from Canton to
Farm Haven.
We were hoping we got that from Canton to College. What level we at that? When we
It's
gonna
been
see-
let already. They should start on it probably within the next month, I would
In the
hope.
next month?
That, APAC Construction got that. Now, that'll depend on there is a flexible start time on that, but yes, sir, that should be done this summer.
Sound great. Commissioner, like you gonna keep through
It's
with
also a little bit of concrete work right there at the intersection of 43 and 16 is also a part of that project as well. Where that asphalt's rutted out, we're going to put some concrete approaches to try to fix that as well. So.
All right. And I just want to thank you for what you've done in the city of Canton. If the mayor hadn't already, thank you. Done a great job in the city of Canton.
Really well.
Yeah.
Commissioner Simmons, you had mentioned 463. What plans do you guys have for 463 going forward?
We did some paving on 463, and we did some preliminary work on trying to figure out what to do with 463. Y'all keep building that community over there and schools and the traffic flow. So you have any additional information on that?
I don't know. We don't know that we have any plans for 463 to widen it or anything like that. Not to my knowledge. No, sir.
I want to put it on
We do
your,
have putting a signal that's dribbling on 463 there close to the school. We are working on that. Hopefully have that, hopefully by next spring or, to let next spring. But, yeah, we just did the overlay and our maintenance forces just came through there and fixed some of the, there's a lot of yazoo clay through that area and we tried to stay on top of that and fix that to give it a smoother ride, but. Yes, sir,
okay,
to my
just,
knowledge, that's
I
all
would
the
like
plan.
to set up an appointment, meet with you guys, a little short-term fix right there in front of Trustmark on 463 in Madison, maybe pushing another through lane. So maybe I can meet up with you
Yeah.
guys one day.
Okay, yes, sir, absolutely.
I'd like to say, Highway 22 has been a dream. You guys did a fantastic job. There are some drainage issues, one in Flora, and just east of the Cabot Road intersection on the westbound lanes, that there's a drop off there that looks to be a little bit dangerous and need somebody to take a look at.
Come out in Flora?
Well, this would be on 22 at Cabot Road, so it would be east of Flora. Cabot Road comes in about midway between Flora and Canton.
Okay.
And
I
there's-
know somebody with the Wagner contacted us about the one at Flora.
At Flora.
At the box, and I've sent that to our bridge division, and they're gonna look into that to see if anything can do. I'm not sure about the one at Academy Road or whatever, but if you'll just get me some information on that, we'll take a look at it.
I'll have our engineer give it you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But anyway, all of us out there would like to tell you we appreciate the work you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And we had a local contractor that did the work on 22. I got to give him a shout out because that's the first state job that he did, AJ Construction.
AJ.
And they did a fabulous job for us too, so.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there other questions that the board would like to ask?
I gotta know.
Okay.
It's not a question, it's just a couple of statements to the commission. Commissioner, I hear about the widening of the interstate, all the way up to,
463 West Side.
but you talked that good thing that's happening in Canton over there, got Amazon and all that coming, and other big companies coming there. We gonna need that 4-lane to come all the way to Canton. You say you got it in your 3-year plan. Hopefully, with that first year drop off on your 3-year plan, that you can add another year to it, where 4-laning it all the way to Canton, where we can get to Amazon and other companies a lot easier.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. The traffic is growing. The Interstate 55 interstate system, we work very close with the federal government, our federal agency. So to widen a interstate, it's a long, drawn-out process to do, but we do constant counts on the traffic and what's going on with the interstate system, and we'll work towards making that happen. But I'm not gonna stand here and commit to you and say we're gonna move toward widening that area. What we did do, we put 15 million paving. We're paving Interstate 55 from Canton up to the county line. Yep, county line. And then beyond that.
And that helped out a lot.
And then we're going to come back. Our plans right now is to come back with 51 next year and pave it. So all your highways within our system is on our radar to be done. What I will say to you that I praise the legislature, and I'll continue to do that because they have done a great thing for us, but also we got to continue to have dollars coming into the system. With all of the money we receive from the federal government, the new funding, which is about $1 billion over 5 years because they folded it over into our formula, as well as the $450 million that we're going to get from the state legislature, is just kind of a small fraction of what we really need. We probably could utilize between $4 and $5 billion to do all of the capacity projects that we need to do. So we got to have also a process of continuing to have money to continue to come into the system. So whenever you see your legislative friends, let them know that we do appreciate what they've done, but all of us got to sit down and figure out how to have that recurring dollars coming to us. Once again, let me thank you all for having us. In addition, the last thing I would say to you is that we just recently took a look at Interstate 55 and 220, the lighting system on it, especially in the Jackson area, and to some degree outside of Jackson. We've had a serious problem with our lightings. Individuals stealing the copper from the lights that you see on the interstate system. That's why you run into some areas and it's dark. We have looked at 220 and 55, and I believe the estimates on getting those lights back up and running and changing the lighting so that we don't have those kind of problems in the future is going to run us about $10 million. We also have a problem with trash.
It's a high-level estimate.
Yeah, okay. And the trash pickup on our highways, state and highway, is a serious problem for us. We spend millions of dollars in addition to the money we put into our contract and mowing while we are picking up the litter. Last year, I spent another $100,000 on one pickup in the Jackson metro area. So we need help. We need help from you all to help encourage the citizen not to throw trash and not to steal our copper wire.
Mr. Commissioner, we appreciate you. I know that I've said this several times to other organizations that 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, you and I met, and you promised to help Madison County, and you're doing that. And we definitely appreciate it. And as Paul said earlier, you keeping your promises. And we in Madison County appreciate it because of the growth that we have. And also, Ms. Brad White, we appreciate you because I know we have met several times with both of y'all in the same meeting. And we appreciate it because y'all have actually really been over backwards at this point to help Madison County. And it helps us continue to grow. And so we appreciate it and thank y'all very much.
Well, with your planning and collaboration, it's an easy thing to do, and we are excited about working with you. So, Brad, you have anything you want to say? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Okay, next on the agenda, we're going to move down to Mr. Tommy Carden with Butler Snow. Some more good news.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. It's a pleasure to follow Commissioner Simmons. He's been such, he and the entire department, MDOT, have been a really effective partner with all of us in this process for the entire Bozeman Reunion transportation system. And so he gave you a very informative update on what's happening from MDOT and from the state legislative funding standpoint. I want to provide you this morning with an update on what's going on from a federal standpoint, because all of these projects, of course, have a significant state component and federal component in them in order for them to work. And we've been working with you as a board on trying to secure federal funding, federal appropriations. And so I want to talk to you basically three areas. I want to update you on what funding we've received this year from Congress. The second area I want to talk to you just a little about the history, what we've received before this year. And then the third thing is what we have pending right now that we're working on, and hopefully we will see it come to fruition in the near future. First of all, though, with regard to this year's funding, FY23, earmarks are back. Now, they're not calling them earmarks anymore. They call them different things. On the Senate side, it's called congressionally directed spending, and on the House side, it's called community project funding. Nothing can be simple when it comes to the federal government. And so, but those are earmarks. And earmarks are essentially directed, they're specific appropriations that Congress directs towards a specific project rather than just a general appropriation. And so we have worked with your congressional delegation over the last several years to ask and seek and secure those earmarks. This year, I'm pleased to report to you that we were successful with regard to securing a total of $10 million for FY23. $7 million of that came from the Senate side, and it's dedicated to the Bozeman Reunion Crossing Interconnectivity System. That's the entire system. That's Bozeman Road, that's Reunion Parkway Crossing, and then that's Phase 3 that you mentioned earlier. $3 million of that 10 is allocated to Reunion Parkway Crossing, and that came from the House side. The way that came about was Congressman Guest submitted a request for the $3 million on the House side. Senators Wicker and Hyde-Smith submitted the request for the $7 million on the Senate side. And lo and behold, the way that works is, the House side comes or the Senate comes, and then they have this, they try to conference together, and lo and behold, we were able to get both of them this time around, which is unusual. We were hoping to get at least one, but we got both, and so that worked out extremely well. Another important legislative victory at the federal level this past year also was the passage of the Water Resources and Development Act. It's called WRDA. Everything in Washington's an acronym, and this one's WRDA, WRDA. And that bill that passed was an authorization of $10 million for stormwater and water treatment, wastewater in the county as a whole. And so that's an authorization of $10 million, and what that means is now that you've got the authorization, in the future we'll go and ask for appropriations against that authorization. So we'll be asking for appropriations up to that $10 million, but we're also going to ask for an increase of that authorization as well. And so we'll be working on that. But that's this year, FY23. So a total of $10 million that's dedicated to the transportation project, and then a total of $10 million in authorization for water, stormwater, wastewater in that area. The previous year, FY22, in that particular year, we were successful, and our delegation was successful in bringing $4 million allocated towards the Bozeman reunion system, the whole system. So there was $4 million allocated to that in FY22. So in the last 2 fiscal years, you've had a total of $14 million in federal appropriations directed towards the Bozeman reunion transportation system, which includes Reunion Parkway crossing. I also want to mention and remind you all, I know you've had this announcement earlier, but you also, through the Natural Resources and Conservation Service, there's been approximately $25 million allocated to assist with flooding in the Upper Bear Creek Basin around Canton, between Canton and Madison in that area. And I must express our gratitude and thanks to Board Attorney Mike Espy, because Mike worked really diligently with the federal officials and you, members of the board, to secure that funding. And that's a significant development for the county that's going to bode well for what's a serious problem that you all have been working hard to address. So what are we asking for now? We ask for something every year. And right now what's pending is we have submitted a request for $7.5 million for the Bozeman reunion system as a whole. We've made that request both from our Senate delegation and our House delegation. And then we've also requested $4 million. You remember the $10 million authorization I told you about for WRDA? Well, we've requested a $4 million appropriation against that authorization for the stormwater needs in the county. And so those are the pending requests right now. And the way the appropriations process works at the federal level, you submit those requests in the spring, right around March or so. All the deadlines fall right about that time. And then the committees do their work and they come together, and then, you know, the House ultimately votes on something, the Senate votes on something. All of that will take place later this year. We likely won't know whether we will actually receive anything this year until late this year. It just depends on when they can get their work done. So hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. In the fall, we will also ask for an increase in that WRDA authorization from 10 million up to probably around 20. So we'll be seeking that, but we'll wait to the fall because that bill doesn't come up until later on in the year. It really gives me great pleasure to be able to give you such a good report. Things have been, your federal congressional delegation, your 2 senators, Senators Wicker and Hyde-Smith, your congressman, Congressman Michael Guest and Congressman Benny Thompson, have all really worked diligently with us and with you to secure this funding, and they continue to do so. They are very receptive to our request. They're always very cooperative, and they're very helpful, and they're working really, really hard for all of the citizens in Madison County. So we need to be mindful, and the reason this happens, y'all, is what Commissioner Simmons said when he first started making his presentation. The reason this happens is because you as a board plan, and you have a team that plans and works together. And it takes the entire team for this to happen. And the team consists of you and the work you're doing, the congressional delegation, our United States Senators, Wicker and Hyde-Smith, our Congressman Guest and Congressman Thompson, their staff. You don't see their staff members a lot, but let me tell you, they're the ones doing the really the spade work that has to be done. Your board attorney, Mike Espy. Mike has been very helpful and throughout this process as a significant member of the team. Our engineers, your engineers, Wagner, Pickering, Neil Schaefer, everybody works together really well as a team, and your county staff, your county administrator, Greg, your county engineer, everybody works together in a selfless way for the benefit of the entire county. And it's a pleasure to have an opportunity to be on that team and to work with each of you and to see the positive results that take place. So, with regard to the future, let's stay tuned, and hopefully there'll be more.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'll answer any questions anybody might have.
Questions for Tommy?
Good
Well,
report. Good report.
Thank you, sir.
One point though, on that authorization.
Yes,
And
sir.
it talks about wastewater. And one of our, we have issues with Beatty's Bluff. And we also have issues in West Madison. Basically, in the West Madison Utility District, they have a wastewater problem. And we are going to be needing funds for the rehab of the whole system of West Madison, as well as a opportunity to do a transmission line into Beatty's Bluff. And we also need to increase capacity of Beatty's Bluff.
Yes, sir.
So we need to be putting that on our thoughts and on our agenda and getting some numbers, and the engineers, we have engineers looking at all that, and we get those numbers into you so we can see what we can do in terms of funding to help that and that issue.
We'll certainly follow up on that, Supervisor Banks. Yes, sir. That's a very significant need. Yes, sir.
Tommy, appreciate it. As Supervisor Griffin said, a very good report. But it takes a team effort to make it happen, as you expressed very well. We thank your team there at Butler Snow for helping to accomplish this, and we just look for bigger and better things in the future, as you indicated. So we appreciate it. Thank you much, and looking forward to the next report later on in the year, first next year.
Very good. Thank you very
Tommy.
much. Appreciate it.
Okay, just kind of staying on the agenda, I know we have a couple others in here that we'd like to hear from. Chief Watts from Gluckstadt. Is the chief?
I'd like to speak, but you overskipped Stephanie Lewis.
We did. We're gonna come back to it. We just kind of moving the agenda around just a little, but you'll be next one or two. Chief Watts.
Thank y'all. My name is Wendell Watts. I'm the Chief of Police of Gluckstadt. I'm here on an incident that occurred in March 9th of 2023. Sergeant Slavin on our department was in a brief pursuit and got shot at, and we had the assistance of Madison County, Madison PD, Ridgeland, ourselves, and during this time, we had K-9 out, we were searching the woods, we had drones up, we had everything in place that you would think would catch an individual. Well, about 4 hours later, Master Sergeant John Garcia, who was absolutely doing what he was supposed to do, which a lot of officers would have given up because it was like 3.5, 4 hours later. He stayed in the area. The individuals emerged from the woods. He was able to ascertain that they were part of the situation that occurred, detained them, took them down to the Sheriff's Department where we came. We were able to put charges and show that each one of them were involved. And without his training and knowledge of how to do his job, and I would like to say that I've worked with a lot of patrolmen in my times, and a lot of patrolmen would have already driven off. So to know that y'all have patrolmen like him and a lot more that are on the Madison County Sheriff's Department, I certainly appreciate everything that's been done for us with the city of Gluckstadt, along with everything that they do in the county, because that keeps it even safer for us too. So I want to have the mayor come up, and I would like Sergeant Slavin to come up, and I'd like Master Sergeant John Garcia to come up, and I'd like to get a picture giving him an award from us. It is in recognition of exceptional service on the morning of March 10th, 2023, which was reflected credit upon himself and the Madison County Sheriff's Office. This award is presented on behalf of the citizens of Gluckstadt and the Gluckstadt Police Department, and it's signed by the mayor and myself. And we're presenting it to John Garcia. Appreciate it.
All right. Mayor Morrison, what would you like, Sheriff?
I would like everybody to come up if we would.
The supervisors as well, or?
Please.
Let's go back out. We haven't taken this many pictures in, 10 years.
Yeah, you right. Oh, these good pictures. Yeah, let me get it back. Oh, yeah. Short.
All right, y'all, try this.
All right.
Okay, and before we back up and get back on schedule, Anita, I know today is Monday and you're always busy on Monday, so come on up and we can see if we can get you in and out here.
All right, sounds great. Good morning, Board, and I appreciate you having us. On a personal note, I would like to say thank you to Cynthia from the Circuit Clerk's office and her staff. You have answered many, many questions, probably some that sounded stupid, but I really, really appreciate you, and I'm going to miss you tremendously. Thank you. As you know, the election commissioner and commissioners and I are always trying to enhance the voting process for Madison County. It's to the benefit of them. You have before you, first of all, a memo that Madison County's been fortunate enough to be granted one the HAVA funds, and the other one was a voting modernization grant. And the modernization grant expires June the 1st. That's why we want to hop on this, because it's the total's $212,436.13. And what we're before you today is this grant. These are quotes. It's from the election, from ES&S, which is our election systems and software that does the calibrating and stuff for our machines. We are wanting to upgrade the circuit clerk server and the ballot on demand hardware, and along with for prepayment of the services, the yearly services from ES&S, and pay them up through November the 24th. And this would end up saving Madison County.
Up through 2024.
Up through what did I say?
Go ahead.
Okay, through 2024, I'm sorry, November, which will be the presidential election, okay? This will approximately save Madison County $13,453.13, and that's on a yearly basis for the election ballot coding services. Madison County has to put the money forward first, and then we invoice the Secretary of State. And I did verify through the Secretary of State that the money would be reimbursed within 2 weeks. So also, we would be using a portion of the HAVA grant money, which is, I'll give you that figure here just a second. $68,330.67. So we're asking the board to put the money first up and then we invoice the Secretary of State.
Is this 100% refundable
Yes, 100% refundable.
in 2 weeks?
Yes, within 2 weeks.
Okay, questions?
All for that motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Griffin. I'll second. Discussion? All in favor?
What was the motion?
Motion is to put up to $68,000.
Okay.
Well, it's actually 68,000 plus what was the total?
Don't we need a sole source first?
Yeah,
Yes, that's where I was heading.
First notion
That
is to be
was-
sole source, declare sole source.
Yes.
that's
this-
what I was getting at.
Okay, do we have a motion
On the sole source.
on the sole source?
I'll make that motion.
Motion Supervisor Banks,
Seconded it.
second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, the second motion then.
The authorized
Okay,
supervisor.
the amount is, we're going to use all of the modernization fund, which is 212,000 plus the 68,000. It's a little bit more, and it all comes to $280,760.80, which will be refunded within 2 weeks.
The whole 2,000 and something?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make that motion
Motion
again.
Supervisor Griffin.
Yeah.
I'll second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, Board. Also, Commissioner Lacy would like to present something too, really quick.
Mr. President, esteemed my supervisors, Mr. Griffin, all the board. Quickly, you have in front of you, it is a pay raise for our poll workers that was passed in the legislature while I was president of Election Commission Association of Mississippi, and it's going to change our pay, and we have to present it to you all guys. On the first part, begins July 1st, is up to $200 to each poll workers. That's going to help us to recruit poll workers and everything to pay poll workers. But the Board of Supervisors must authorize that for our primary, if it's a runoff, and also for our general election this year. Next year, come January the 1st, it is in effect for the whole amount anyway. Also, it's going to carry on the second page, $25 for the returning and receive manager, where now it's only $10, so it's going to change that. Everything else pretty much stays the same, except we can pay the training up to $20 an hour while we're doing $12 now.
What item number is that, Leroy?
That's on the first page, section 1.
What
effect-
item number?
It is not on
Number.
the agenda,
It's-
Supervisor
right
Steen.
here.
I was
So it
unaware
is
of
not
it.
on the
I
agenda?
looked at it.
First I saw it was today, yeah.
Morning.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes, sir.
everything needs to be on the agenda ahead of time.
Oh, Mr. Nita did that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Nita was in
Well,
control.
we need to make sure our administrator and attorney looks at this, and I'm sure it's okay,
Yeah.
but we really need for them to look at it, and so I would ask the board just kind of hold off and
We
give them a
got
little
time for our next meeting to approve it before. That's the question.
Okay.
If we will hold it to the next meeting and approve it, it'll be in time to,
First meeting in June.
That's right.
yeah, first meeting in June.
Be 3 weeks from today, I think.
Okay.
Do we have time for that?
So y'all got to get your, poll work and get them trained, or y'all gonna do it before the
June the
first week of
5th.
June start?
Well, our training starts in June. June what, Ms. Pat?
June 5th.
June the
Well, you
12th.
got time then. We'll
Yeah.
Yeah.
approve it the first meeting in June, and you'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the training.
Let's just, go through the administrator and the attorney and make sure, and I'm sure it's good,
Okay, yeah,
but let's just hand it to them, and then we can put it on the next agenda.
okay.
Thank you.
I got a question.
The second one now
Oh,
is
yeah.
not going to be able to be on June. This is our travel for our training, the election committee. It starts this week. We just got it. You'll see it, but so y'all will know why we giving the expense tickets. That's really what that's for.
Yeah, but you knew that was coming too.
Supervisor Jones, you have the,
He said he didn't know about that, but he should have expected it if it was training.
you talking about the traveling? What are you talking about at this time?
It was two put on all of y'all desks about our training, our summer training for election commission over the state. So y'all will be aware of that.
When is that happening?
It starts this week.
And this board at the last meeting approved travel for, I believe it was 2 election commissioners, and there's a third on this week's agenda as a consent item. In particular, this one is Dan Dickerson. Mr. Lacy, I don't know if we have approved travel for you yet. If we have not, then we should probably do that today.
Yeah.
You added on that consent item, what you saying?
Yes.
We haven't approved consent items yet.
We haven't, so we can add Mr. Lacy to item
Okay.
25.
Yeah, we're gonna back up and get, start over here in a second, so, we'll just get it that time. But let's just make sure we put things on the agenda if we know ahead
I
of
get on
time.
Miss Anita.
That's okay. We'll know the next time, though.
For y'all, so if you got two election commissioners here, I've been receiving emails and phone calls about the contract between you all and the two parties, the Democrat and Republican Party. I want you, if you all can, without that contract being in front of you, verify what you all are planning on. Are you all hiring all the poll worker and training them without the party having any input on who you hire, of what? So can you all kind of explain that to me? Since I don't have that contract.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that.
We had offered the same contract to both parties, and it was accepted by the Republican Party as is. They said that we would hire all the poll workers, but that we would take any input from them, that they had people they would like to also hire for certain precincts because they know the people they would like to have. Our position was that we have the newer voting equipment, and it's not something that you just learn overnight, and we were trying to have it where the precincts would flow smoothly on Election Day. So we felt like that if we trained the poll workers and were able to get them up to speed, that would be good. They have a history of sometimes hiring people at the last minute that have never even been to training, and they come in on Election Day, and it causes a lot of confusion. We were just trying to be ahead of the game and have us be involved in it. And it wasn't accepted until our deadline, but it was with modifications that we had not put forward. So we've just been back and forth with the party chair.
Okay, so you all are saying that on the poll workers that the parties could recommend.
Yes, sir.
Poll workers.
Yes, sir.
To you all.
Yes, sir.
And probably by what, 95 or 98% of the time that you all probably will approve the one that they recommend.
And they probably are the people we normally use also. It's just that it helped us know who we were working with. And if we just blanket say we're having training and we can only accommodate 60 people and we ask each group to bring in 30, if we are actually contacting the poll workers, it lets us know who those 60 people that are going to come to each training time.
Okay.
And
Okay, verify this for me if you can. Just say a poll, it takes 12 people to be there to work those polls.
yes, sir.
How do you all divide those people up, Republican and Democrat? And this coming from some of our Democratic chairmen. This ain't coming from Paul.
Understand.
And it came over the weekend. It happened to be Mother's Day, the second day that falls upon the Christmas.
Yes.
By the way it works, Mr. Griffin, let's use one of my precincts, 517 Camden. They can handle 8 people in the polling place. So if you have a primary, that's 4 each, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. It works that way all over the county.
And all that in that contract.
No, not initially, because we thought everybody was going to go because we've done this before and we haven't had this problem. So therefore, but we now have identified to both parties what they can have, yes.
Okay. So y'all working out some more things on the contract still. Y'all hadn't approved them, have you?
One
Just
side.
One side has
One
been
side.
approved.
Okay.
I know last board meeting, I think we approved the Republican side, if I'm, and there was some issues there, I think, Pat, that was worked out as well, along the
We
way.
tried
give and
negotiating with,
take.
yeah, we tried negotiating with both, invited them to our meetings. We've had dialogue back and forth, and it just got down to that issue mainly about the poll workers and who was going to be handling ballots, actually.
Okay. But it sounds like Supervisor Griffin that they're working through it.
Yeah, working through it
May
still.
wanna-
Okay.
You may want to be involved in a little bit more if you like, outside of this meeting, you know.
I really didn't want to be, but it seemed like I might have to. Sure.
I know it. I know, Pat and I, we talked about it three, 4 times before there was an agreement on the Republican side. But there was a give and take.
It was.
Yeah.
You have to give and take. And
But it was just easier if you had a game plan instead of at the last minute it
That's right.
all suddenly changed.
Yeah.
Is why we were trying to have that.
All right. Sound great. I'll be contacting you, Rep, you and too.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Leroy.
Okay.
I wanted to move back up and try to get back on schedule now with the concerned citizens.
Yes, Miss Stacy.
Stephanie Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Lewis. Come and state your name, please, and your address, and a couple of minutes, please, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Stephanie Lewis. Address is 3010 Madison Street in Flora. Along with me is my neighbor, Ethel Thomas, which is one of the neighbors that lives on that street. And my concern was, and it has been for years, and the past 2 years, I spoke with Scott Weeks about an abandoned home, along with abandoned building that's no longer being used. It's in the neighborhood and is infested with rodents. Each year, we are killing some of everything that's out there in the neighborhood. And when I spoke with him about the home and the overgrown, which I have pictures as well.
Can I see them, please?
Yes. When I spoke with him, he initially told me that he didn't know who owned the property to give him a couple of days and call back, which I did.
Right.
And then later he told me he found out who it was. He was gonna send letters out to try to get them to do something about the property, along with sending someone out to take the pictures. It may not be fair to say, because I don't really know, but I didn't never see anyone come out there to take pictures until this past Friday, and when I spoke with him. But to piggyback on the reason why I'm here is that it's dangerous. The abandoned building, each summer, we tend to have some kind of fire that ignites from the cotton that was being stored there,
Right.
which sends out black smoke and, scent. And so it's just an eyesore in the neighborhood, and like I say, it's dangerous, and just need to get some help to see what can be done about cleaning up that neighborhood.
Okay.
Two locations on there, right? A home and a
Yes,
building.
and the abandoned building coming into the neighborhood.
Are they side by side, or are they just
No.
different lots? Okay. Ms.
The
Banks.
abandoned building is in the industrial park area.
That's right, that's
Okay.
correct.
And then that house is
Next
next
door.
door. It's next door to you.
Door to me, and
Uh-huh.
across the street from her.
Okay.
Mr. Weeks,
Where's Scott?
he's making his way up.
Oh,
If you would,
okay.
let him come to the mic and just give us an update, please.
Mr. President, Board of Supervisors, we have addressed this property before, and we've had some issues with it on the legalities of it. But after talking with Mr. Clark, that this is in the process of a tax sale. But we can legally send that letter, that notice, according to 195105 Mississippi Code. And I intend on putting a sign out there today and bringing it to the board at the next meeting.
Okay. And that's both properties?
I'm not, which one is the structure? Was that Gator?
Like
I'm-
you want
Mr.
two
Banks?
sheds.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
I would,
I'm not familiar with that one.
One is in the industrial.
I would talk with Ms. Lewis.
Functional, but you see it once you turn on the street, which leads into the property, leads into the neighborhood, the subdivision. It's the big abandoned building.
The big steel structure?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'll address
Give
that
those
also.
pictures
We
to
also
Scott.
have seen, randomly, young guys there, and I'm just assuming and don't want it to be drug invested, operational there, because there's so many areas in that location where they can, do drug transactions.
Ms.
Yes.
Lewis, Scott,
into
here's
that.
the pictures, and should be able to, Ronnie has the pictures of the buildings. And so you should be able to identify from there as well, get Ms. Lewis's number, if you do not already have it, and maybe have both of them on the agenda.
Yes, sir. I can arrange
next
that,
board
as long as they meet the requirements by state law. And I do have the pictures that William went and
Okay.
took Friday.
Okay, good deal.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Banks, anything else?
Well, I've got one, you were saying that you're gonna put signage, at the house.
Correct.
Okay. Now, once we go through the process, now, this house is being sold for taxes, I believe you see.
Yes, sir. It's in 2 years of unredeemed taxes, if I'm not mistaken.
So we're not, we've got to go through the process, and then we can go out and we can clean the area.
Correct.
We can tear down the house.
Correct. According to state law.
And then we will take whatever it costs us and place that also on top of the taxes.
It's a portion of it, and I do have the state law statute here.
Okay.
It's,
But you're going through the process that is required.
yes.
Is what I'm
So
hearing.
how long from today, when you put that notice out there, and how long is it gonna take before they can get relief? In other words, how long before we can go out there and clear that area?
At the
30 to
next
60.
board meeting, you could authorize either a contractor or the road department to go out there and do the work.
Okay.
So you could see some relief in 30 days or less?
It'll be less then.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the next thing, once we clean it up, clear that area, I guess the neighbors, could themselves keep the grass cut.
No.
But
It
see, 'cause
probably gonna be whoever getting it on that tax sale, we'll be going
That's
after them. Then.
if it sells.
It gonna sell.
See, that's, that, well, the Secretary of State got a whole lot of property right now.
Fund us,
Well,
pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think basically we have the process moving forward. So the next board meeting, it'll be on the agenda, and then we can take the next step.
and we do have according to state law, once we clean it up,
Yeah.
we can go back in up to 6 times in a year.
okay.
So we're going down the right path.
Yeah.
Yes.
May just take a little while longer, but we appreciate y'all bringing it to our attention.
That'll work.
I just
Well,
have one question. So you're
Ma'am, if
saying-
you do, come up to the
Yeah.
mic.
So are you actually saying, as of today, you're gonna reach out to whoever needs to be reached out to? And once you do that, then it'll be brought back to the board, and then that's when the steps will come as far as cleaning the property? I'm just trying to get an understanding, what do you mean?
We have to notify the owner according to state law.
Okay, but it's been several years, and I
Ma'am.
spoke with you
Ma'am.
2 years ago
Ms.
about
Lewis.
that, and that's what you told me
Ms.
then.
Lewis, hold on one second. Go ahead and explain the law to her.
Yeah.
We have to notify them by state law, and then we have 15 days prior to this meeting, the next meeting, which would be June 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
The board can take action then, whichever they deem necessary.
So they already been
Yeah.
notified with what you saying.
They will be notified in letter today.
Yeah.
Which gives them proper time. Now, we did run into some legal issues on this property in the past.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Lewis, we have it moving forward, and it'll be on the next agenda for this board to act, to be able to either hire a private contractor to come and clean it up, or get the county to go and clean it up. So
Okay,
you
and
should
I-
see something within a very short period of time.
And what about the abandoned building?
Yeah.
Both of them are the same.
I'll
Okay.
look into that also.
Yeah,
Okay.
both of
I'll
them
be
gonna
out
be
there
the same.
today.
Okay, and I just wanted to leave it at that, and that's the reason why I'm just picking back and forth, because it's been 2 years, and when I spoke with you 2 years ago, you told me exactly what you're saying now. So that's why I
Miss
don't
Lewis.
understand.
Mr. Lewis, we're not gonna go back 2 years.
Well, that's why I'm trying to get an understanding, is it gonna be, how soon it's gonna be?
Well, he
because of
said at the
time.
next board meeting.
Next board meeting
So
be-
next board meeting, he'll have something in
Yeah.
front of us.
First Monday. in
Which is
June.
June the 5th.
Okay.
June 5th.
Not the
And
6th.
then we're gonna start there and move forward, and we should see some relief at that point,
Okay, so 2 years was just a waste.
okay? Thank you, ma'am. All right, moving on to the next item. I know that,
We're gonna have any more concerned citizens?
well, do we have any other concerned citizens?
There is one on the list, but he appears to be here for the rezoning on Bozeman Road, which will be part of the public hearing.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's move back to item 5. Lisa Word,
Yeah.
Canton Public School. Melissa, if you would, come up and introduce yourself, please, and address.
Good morning.
All those good folks that with
Yes,
you.
yes.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Word. I'm the athletic director for Canton Public Schools. Coach Bolton is, Calvin Bolton is our assistant AD and football coach, and Mr. Rodney Harris is our director of transportation and maintenance. We are in the process of trying to, I guess, beautify and make safe Nichols Middle School, the running track that's on the field, around the field, and for basically for safety reasons and just to help revitalize that area. And we were asking assistance from you, Board of Supervisors, and possibly resurfacing the track for us.
Okay. And I think we had Cornelius take a look at that
Yeah,
track too.
Cornelius?
Cornelius. And what I have heard since you've been out there, they don't need the regular height of a road. So like, I mean, usually do 2 inches at least for a road. 1 inch probably will take care of them out there.
Well,
Or 1.5 inches.
but I mean, looking at 1.5 inches to do it, but we just got some pre-leveling and got some dig-out spot that we gotta do, and we got a cross drain that we got to replace that had come undone. But for
That what?
cross drain pipe
Oh,
and come
okay.
undone that we got to replace, but for an 1.5 inches to do it, you'd be looking about $45,000,
About how much?
about $45,000 the most.
45,000?
Mm-hmm.
Mike, how does that fit into the legal aspect?
We're able to do it, but as long as the county does the work. So it's the county has to do the work. We've done it before. So it's legal to do it, offer aid to a public school, but they request as long as the county does the work.
That's
Okay.
what we plan on doing anyway.
Should be an inch.
Hmm?
Take that 1/2 inch off.
All right, what's the wishes of the board?
An inch and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My motion would be, since the supervisor ain't making the motion, or the dish ain't making, is allow the road department go out there to,
Do an inch.
research the track and do the dig outs, and up to 1 inch of the, asphalt on it, but not to go past the price of 40,000.
I'll second that motion.
I've got a motion, got a second?
You got that, Ronnie?
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank y'all.
That don't mean that work gonna start tomorrow though, Evelyn. Cause we doing roads right now.
Next is public hearing, but I'd like to go ahead and get the consent out of the way, and then we'll come back to the public hearing.
You got another elected official over there, too.
Do I,
You may tell him.
on the consent, do I have a motion for the consent?
Move on the consent, and I think at item 25, you wanted to, instead of just naming that particular election commissioner, it should be for all the election commissioners.
Yeah, that's where it should
Okay.
go.
We got a motion for approval of consent item
Mr. Chairman? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
with the additional of item 25 where it says that we want to include all
All
of the
election
election commissioners.
addition.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Got a
Second.
second? I'll second it. Mike?
On the previous item, we might be in interlocal with the school. Public school
Let us
do
get
work.
through with this first.
All right. Yeah.
Let's get through and we'll come back. Discussion on the consent item? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, coming back again to the interlocal agreement, to the motion that was just passed on the school.
I've got to check. I know that we can do the work as long as the county performs it. We have requests from the school to do the work. I'm just wondering whether we need an interlocal agreement or a cooperative agreement.
Cooperative
That's the
agreement.
only difference. I need to check that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, the next is Mr. Kennedy. I know you the next elected official that's in here. I think everybody else is gone except for one sitting up here, so I hate to skip over the public hearing again, but come on up because.
Excuse me. All right, the first item I have, and you should have all of the details in your packet, is to acknowledge the broadband exemption. And if you'll bear with me, I'll read those entities off. For Verizon Wireless, AT&T Mobility, Unity Fiber Holdings Incorporated, and Cellular South per Mississippi Code 57877. Just need a motion and a vote to acknowledge
Do I have a
that.
motion? Got a motion, Supervisor Jones. Do I have a second? Second. Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Second item is a name change on an exemption from Axial LLC to Westlake Compounds LLC.
Motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Griffin. Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
We have filings for Freeport warehouse exemptions for Amazon, Sumitomo Electric Wiring Systems Incorporated. I think we can handle all of these in one motion. Mike, are you okay with that? Okay. Hunter Engineering Company and Sanhua International Incorporated, Freeport warehouse applications per 273151.
Do I have a motion? Motion, Supervisor Jones.
Second.
Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Next, we have a final filing for McKesson Medical Surgical. They filed a return with 0 for the 2023 personal property tax roll, and they have closed in Madison County.
Okay, do I have, you need a motion on that?
I think we should acknowledge it, yes.
Acknowledge.
Got a knowledge by Supervisor Banks. I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right, next we have a Freeport warehouse filing for Westlake Compounds LLC. The deadline for filing on this one was March 31st, and they did not file until May the 4th of 2023. And that's per statute. So I don't know that we have any authority, or the board has any authority to approve it, since it was not filed timely.
So we need to acknowledge it.
Move on to the next one.
Do we need to acknowledge it?
Well, you
at
need
all?
to either approve it or deny it. And
Okay.
it's a
What do you
significant
recommend?
amount due to the lack of not filing timely.
What are you recommending?
I don't think, I mean, per statute, Mike can look at the statute, but I don't know that it can be approved.
So what you're saying is that we need a motion to deny it in your request or?
Per
It's
the
It's
statute.
interpretation of the statute, but it's pretty clear that the deadline for filing is March
Do I have a
31st.
motion to deny?
Motion to deny.
Got a
per the
motion to deny it? I'll second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Next, we have Westlake Compounds. This is an expansion under 2735-105, personal property only. And I think everything was filed timely with this one and meets all the requirements.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Motion Supervisor Banks. I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Unipress Southeast USA Incorporated. Again, this is an expansion filing under 2731-105 statute. And this is a little different from the Freeport warehouse deadline. They did not, the deadline for filing per county policy was March 1 for this type of exemption. The statute reads June 1, but the county policy is March 1. They filed March the 15th, so it was late.
Per the county policy,
Per county policy,
but not per the state.
correct.
Okay, so you're saying, you're asking for it to be approved then?
That's up to the board. I mean, it's at the board's discretion, but
All right, I make a motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Wait. We got legal advice on this?
Well, I think well, good question, but I think the state would overrule the county on this one.
I think Mike would, I mean, the statute is a statute on most exemptions, and we have had opinions issued on that. AG opinions, legal opined by board attorneys in the past. And if they do not meet the statutory date, then I don't think you have the authority to approve them, and Mike can, talk about that. But in this case, the statute reads June 1, county policies, March the 1st.
That's what I'm saying, it's a county policy, that they missed on the deadline.
Yeah.
Why we got the
It's
county got
within your discretion, you could deny it, but he could appeal
That's right.
or complain. So as long as he met it before the state deadline, I think you'd have to approve it.
Yeah.
Right.
why we got our
Yeah,
policy on March and the state is different?
That was something that was set by the board and the previous attorney, I believe, when that was worked on.
Yeah, it might be worth looking at, see why, is there a reason why?
One thing that's helpful for the tax assessor staff is to have it, have the applications earlier, because it takes time to get out and field inspect and verify everything. But
But
I
it
think that
probably
was the,
came from the tax assessor's request to the board. then.
Yeah.
Most likely
I
at
think it
some
was
point.
done for convenience for that same purpose of being able to.
possibly,
Yeah,
in the
possibly.
past.
If you will, just look into it and see, but we have a motion on the table, on the floor.
Yeah.
All in favor?
That policy Norman is referring to was adopted by this board like 04, 05, 06.
Really?
Or what he just said, to allow them time to review all the applications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's why you can't go nowhere.
we could have others come in front of us
Yeah.
as well. Thank you, Cynthia. Got a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Last is DBC Corporation. Again, they filed late. March the 6th, I believe, was the file date. And the deadline per county policy was March 1. And this is, again, an expansion under 2731-105.
So it falls on the same category.
Correct.
We got a motion from Mr.
Move.
Banks. Second by, I'll second it. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
And that is it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Tax Assessor, appreciate you as always. Thank you much. Okay, we're
And I
gonna
did
move
want
back.
to comment, Cynthia, thank you for all of your hard work and dedication to Madison County. I've enjoyed working with you. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move back up to the public hearing. At this point, do I have a motion to go into the public hearing?
Move.
Got a motion Supervisor Jones, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion? Aye. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, Mr. Clark, come up and kindly give us a little short, brief background.
Sure. What you got before you today is a public hearing on the rezoning of certain property there on Bozeman Road, just to kind of orient you. This is between Bozeman and the interstate, sort of at the where Union Parkway dead ends right now into Bozeman. Property was zoned and is currently zoned SU1, Special Use 1. But the actual use of that property right now is agriculture. It's cropland. The SU1 designation came in sometime probably back in the 80s. I think there was some sort of a theme park or a water park or something that was planned there, but just never came to fruition. So what you have before you, or was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission, is a petition to rezone all of that property. I think it's probably 350 acres. Mr. Smith can verify that, to C2, commercial C2. This came before the Planning and Zoning Commission, I believe back in March, and passed with a 4-to-1 vote. 4 in favor, 1 in opposition. The City of Madison filed their appeal, and that has been continued once at the joint agreement of both parties, and we're here today to have that zoning or appeal hearing.
Okay. All right, we'll thank him.
Wait,
Andy.
I got Andy, tell me, or tell the crowd, what C2 encompasses.
C2 is General Highway Commercial District, which, as you know, there are numerous zoning districts throughout the county: residential, commercial, industrial, various ones. C2 does allow for, and Scott, correct me if I say anything wrong, any sort of what you would consider probably a strip center, commercial center, office, retail. It does allow for convenience stores, gas stations, hotels, a variety of things that you would consider a commercial entity. But let's keep in mind here that we are only here for the rezoning, which would allow those things. There are multiple other steps that anyone would have to go through to get through to that stage, being a master development plan, site plan for each any building or structure that they would like to put up there. That goes back through the process of approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission, ultimately for approval for you guys.
But once it's rezoned, if there's no restrictions stopping something, say, I mean, let's be honest, it could be a tattoo parlor. I mean, we'd have to, the reins would be off. How would we stop that? Through elevations? Or
yes, through the Planning and Zoning Commission and you guys. Part of the criteria that you look at that for any business that goes in there would be excessive similarities or dissimilarities with surrounding properties. But no, you're right. There are certain things under C2 that are permitted uses. There are conditional uses. But you've also got to think that this is currently one developer, one owner. I think that person would have control over what he puts or does not put on his property. Now, if that's sold, that's a different matter. That person would have control as to what's owner on their property. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, if that was true, and why would we have planning and zoning? Just let them build whatever they want.
Because planning and zoning, like I said, looks at site plans, master development plans as to what's permitted or maybe not permitted, but appropriate or inappropriate.
Okay, well, I was hoping that at this juncture we would have a agreement. Obviously, the City of Madison has concerns between Richard and the city on restrictions, and this could go through, but apparently they didn't get to come to some type of agreement, so here we are.
And as a full disclosure, there was a request from the city on Friday for a continuance of this matter. That was not agreed to by the petitioner. So my advice to council for the city of Madison was, since there's no agreement, this is just like a court hearing. You know, you show up at the appropriate time and argue your reason for continuance, or be prepared to proceed based on the ruling of the court. In this matter, it would be a ruling of the Board of Supervisors. I did get an email this morning that the city of Madison would not be seeking a continuance and would be here today to proceed.
Okay.
Good deal. All right, with that being said, we'll go ahead and do what now?
He just wanted me to make the point, and he's correct, that this property is designated as C2 on the Madison County Comprehensive Plan.
Okay,
That was adopted in 2019.
And I think we'll get into that
Right.
at this point.
That's right.
Steve, come up and tell us why, what your thoughts is, why on rezoning.
First of all, Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to hand you a map. It's attached to our petition. This succinctly shows you the land we're talking about and its relationship into the Union Parkway extension. Now,
Mr. Smith, if you would, state your name and address when you get back up to the podium, please.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Steve Smith, and I'm an attorney in Jackson. I'm here today on behalf of the Minnie J. Bozeman Family Limited Partnership. That is the entity that owns the property here in question, and it is about 350 acres. It's adjacent to what will be the newly constructed Reunion Parkway extension, which will run from Bozeman Road to I-55. Commissioner Simmons talked about this earlier, about how this project is on their front burner, and it's been funded and it's been approved. We timely mailed out all of the notices to the adjoining property owners. Copies of those were given to the zoning administrator, Mr. Weeks, and a copy of those were put into the record before the Planning and Zoning Commission. At this time, Mike, I would like to add to this record all of the notices that were mailed out and all the exhibits that were made a part of the Planning and Zoning meeting, and along with the Planning and Zoning minutes. The map you have shows the property in question. The Bozeman family owns this property. And again, as I wanted to point out to Mr. Clark, in your 2019 Comprehensive Land Use Plan, this board dedicated all of this property here in question as C2. That's all we're asking for this board to do today, is zone it like you've designated it on your Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Just within the last couple of years, I'm sure this board's aware that it's acquired additional rights of way along Bozeman Road from Highway 463 to Gluckstadt, and it's relocated utilities in anticipation of and planning for the development of land along Bozeman Road and the Reunion Extension Parkway. The extension of the Reunion Parkway is also specifically designated and listed in the county's Comprehensive Land Use Plan and Thoroughfares Plan. So this is something that the county has planned for and designated many years ago. More importantly, this rezoning meets the four criteria that this board and this county and this state requires. It meets the requirements of your long-range goals and objectives. It meets your land use plan. It meets your transportation plan, and it meets your community services plan. We proceed today under Section 806.03 of your zoning ordinance, which is that the character of the neighborhood has changed so as to justify the rezoning and that there is a public need. We believe the change in this area over the last 3 to 5 years has been substantial. I want to list those, all of which are in my petition. In paragraphs 8 and 9 of our petition, we cite the most impactful job-creating commercial developments which have occurred in Madison County since 2017. 70 million in new construction permits, over 60 commercial permits issued just since 2021. Madison County Economic Development Authority records establish that between October of 2017 and February of 2022, 18 new commercial developments were started. Each and every one of those are listed in footnote number 1 on page 5 of our petition. Over 2,100 new jobs were created and over $1.7 billion, with a B, invested in Madison County. Since the comprehensive plan of 2019 was adopted, there have been 8 new subdivisions platted within 3 to 4 miles of this property. And to be conservative, there are currently between 1,000 and 1,200 residential lots under development and are ready for construction. I don't think I need to tell this board that residential development drives commercial development. The residential and commercial development in this area, which is between Madison and Gluckstadt, Bozeman Road, and the interstate, has grown exponentially. When you just look at your 2010 census versus your 2020, Madison County added 14,000 people. When you look at what the county anticipates in new additional people, between 2020 and 2030, you anticipate 18,000. Between 2020 and 2040, this board anticipates the county will add another 39,000. We think the need is obvious, and we think the county is growing at exponential rates. Again, back in 2019, your comprehensive plan designated this property as C2, and you put the Reunion Parkway extension from Bozeman Road to I-55 on your thoroughfares plan. I don't have to tell this board that the expansion of Reunion Parkway will make it easier, faster, and better for your residents to reach the interstate. It will take a tremendous amount of traffic off of 463 that y'all were talking to Commissioner Simmons about. And the property along this new 4-lane separated road will be able to handle a tremendous amount of traffic. And as we all know, when you have major thoroughfares, C1, C2 is the proper zoning for that area, as you have designated on your plan. Let's not forget also, though, that in your comprehensive plan, the county specifically seeks to do 6 things. 1, improve transportation. 2, improve public safety. 3, encourage economic development. 4, prevent overcrowding. 5, facilitate adequate water, sewer, schools, parks, and roads, and promote high-quality living. I submit to the board this morning that this rezoning does all of those things as is listed in your comprehensive plan. It also prevents prevent the ineffective development of land, and it will protect the county's natural and built assets. In conclusion, we submit that our petition to rezone, along with our presentation here today, meets and exceeds the rezoning criteria of the Madison County zoning ordinance. I don't think anyone in this room would deny that the character of the neighborhood in this area has changed and is changing dramatically as we speak, so as to justify the rezoning, and that there is and will continue to be a major public need. Again, this county designated this road, this property, the Bozeman property, as C2 on its comprehensive land use plan, and that's simply what we're asking the county to do today, is to zone it as C2. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, before you sit down, are there questions from the board? Mrs. Smith? And just make sure I'm clear on the zoning. What is it zoned now?
SU1, like Mr. Clark stated.
Okay, and you're asking to zone it to C2?
2, which is what it's designated on the county's land use plan as.
Okay. Are there other questions?
What is SU1, Mike?
Special use.
Scott, would you come up and answer Supervisor Jones' question? She asked, what is SU1? Zoning.
SU1, yeah, back in that time, back in the 70s, it was going to be, I think, a Jellystone theme park. And that can also include institutions such as colleges and hospitals and the like. I did have one thing to add, if I may. Item 53 is actually part of this public hearing. It was the minutes that were from that meeting with the exhibits on what Mr. Smith was talking about, the certified return receipt section.
Okay,
So-
we'll get to that then. Appreciate
Yes.
you bringing it. Are there others that would like to speak in favor of this project? If not, are there anyone that'd like to speak in opposition of this project? If you would, each one of y'all please come and stand up, and when you come, you have a couple of minutes and state your name and address, and then please share with the board what you would like for us to know. Y'all could come up as well if you don't mind it, and this kindly form behind her a little bit. Okay.
My name is Jane Corey. I live at 119 Esplanade Court, off Bozeman in the Belterre subdivision. I attended the Zoning and Planning Commission meeting and spoke as well on the same issue. Came to our attention 2 days before that meeting. I know that Mr. Smith has said the same thing at the last meeting in the 2019 comprehensive plan for Madison County. However, we all have lived and learned that plans change, things change. When I drive up and down Bozeman, you see churches and a school. I don't see big box retailers. I don't see major shopping centers. Let's look at Colony Crossing that can't keep tenants. Let's look at the Germantown Village above us that is going in, as supposedly has been approved and is going to be built out in 2024. I'm very concerned as a homeowner of my property value. The one thing about Madison County, it does have high property values. It has a nice aesthetic, a nice place to live. We have low crime, all the reasons that is driving this mass exodus into Madison and away from other counties, as I prior lived in Hinds County. I'm very concerned with a blanket C2 zoning because I do not think that it is in keeping in character with what you want to look back in 10 to 20 years and be proud of that the Board of Supervisors have approved. You want something, we don't need another Top Golf. It could be anything. It could be a tattoo parlor. And to think that what they tell you today it will be, I would like to see what it's actually going to be and what it's going to be built out to be. So I would hope that, I'm not opposed to commercial development. I like convenience, but I don't want a blanket C2 zoning. I think there is some compromise. I think that we need, I would just like for the Board of Supervisors to have a little bit more discernment about what they're going to vote on to allow. And I think that the property affected owners, even if not, I am not an adjoining, but I am going to be directly affected by it. And so I represent the Belterre Homeowners Association today, who are thankful there is an appeal in the court system, and we are potentially debating joining in as well. So I would just prayerfully ask that one of the things we prayed about when we opened this meeting was that you think about the developments, about the choices that you're tasked with to approve, and let's do something that you can look back and say, we did that during our tenure, and it's a great combination use of commercial development and not what we see south and north that, you know, as things are vacant, as economy changes, storefronts come and go, but the neighborhood and the people are what drive the business. So listen to the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Next.
Took a lot of notes during this. I'm going to give it.
My name is Chris Hinkle. I've lived here about almost 17 years now. We chose to live in Madison when we moved from Virginia. I'm retired now, retired in 2019. I am a retired FBI agent. If that makes some of you nervous, that's on you. I tend to look at things and get my gut feeling on it. And as I've told young FBI agents that I've taught, when you have that gut feeling, and Randy can attest to this, you may not be able to articulate that something's wrong, but that gut feeling is usually pretty good about knowing when something's wrong. We just heard a lady talk from Flora, and I thought it was interesting that she's talking about a vacant building, commercial building in Flora that's been sitting, that's rat infested and rodent infested and all that. I'm sure at one time the Board of Supervisors thought that building was a great idea to be built next to that residential neighborhood. Does it seem like a really good idea now? I don't think so, because now you're having to clean up a mess that's over there because the long-term thought on it. My guess is that some of the same things that were happening back then are happening now, which there wasn't sufficient consultation with the citizens that live around where this development's going to be. He talked about sending out notices to adjoining properties. That's just on both sides of the Bozeman property. But everybody's affected on it. I've watched what's happened at the development here. Look at Gluckstadt Road. It got widened, it got connected to 55. Is there anybody here that raised your hand and think that traffic's better on Bozeman Road since they did that?
Chris, if you would, keep your comments to the board.
I
please.
am. I'm just turning so that they can hear
No,
me.
you keep your comments towards the board.
All right, well,
Thank you.
all right. I doubt there's anybody here that would raise their hand and say that that was it. I'm speaking to on behalf of the citizens, I'm speaking to the citizens, and speaking through you. I speak often to the Madison County School Board about situations there. I've become a lot more active since I retired. The Hatch Act kind of prohibited me from getting really involved in things in my local community. One of the things that I reminded the members of the school board are, and I'm going to remind you, is that you're not leaders. We didn't elect you here to make decisions on our behalf. We elected you to represent us. We live in a constitutional republic. The word leader does not appear in the Constitution anywhere. Representative does. And it's literally the one thing that you swear an oath to protect and defend, which is those rights. And we're looking out for the rights of these property owners. 2019 keeps getting cited about this planning of it being eventually C2. I would say that a lot of things have happened since 2019. We watched how government overreach during a COVID pandemic occurred, where it changed the business structure here. Small businesses went out of business. Small businesses were shut down. Big box stores were left open for that commercial development. As Jane mentioned earlier, Colony Crossing has trouble keeping some of the tenants in there right now. The Pizza Inn area there, it's had 3 different tenants just in the past, about 7 years? They can't stay there. Obviously, we're not thinking logically at looking at, do we think that there's even a demand for having that type of property there? I last spoke to this board over 15 years ago when the board was considering allocating property behind Cherry Hill Plantation, where I live, at 449 Cherry Hill Drive, to build a ballpark. That didn't seek sufficient input from the citizens of those affected neighborhoods. You guys got us, I don't know if anybody was here on the board back then, 15 years ago, but about 200 people showed up to that board meeting. The citizens demand accountability in this. It's a bad idea. Just because it was planned for C2 back in 2019 doesn't mean it's a good idea right now. Just as I told you 15 years ago, you want to increase my property values? Build a police substation, build a church, build a school. You can put a medical complex there that doesn't detract from the neighborhood, and that'll increase my property values. You put commercial buildings in there and open it wide open for things like tattoo parlors, bowling alleys, even a gas station or a strip mall, that's not going to increase my property values. You guys know that, but that's not what you're looking at. The last thing that I want to come across here, talk to you about, and it's dealing with the amount of money that keeps getting thrown around here. I've heard about spending this, spending that, and the board is obviously in charge of spending money with the development of this construction project. I'm for the Reunion extension to alleviate traffic, but anybody that thinks that just building that and then widening Bozeman Road and throwing a bunch of commercial property up there is going to make traffic easier, take a look at Gluckstadt Road. It's going to make it worse. We've already heard just now that they're not even looking at expanding 463. You can make Bozeman Road 8 lanes, but if you don't have a way to egress off of it onto 463 or to get up to Gluckstadt to get over to I-55, it's really not going to change anything, and it's going to make life miserable for people there living off of Bozeman Road. Remember, the government does not have money. It doesn't. You have taxpayer funds that you allocate and spend at the will and intent of the voters. And I'll give you this last little bit here before this lady that's going to be much more eloquent than I am on this speaks. There's 2 things certain in life. What do they say it is? Death and taxes. There's 2 other certain things here. There's nothing that the federal, state, or local government regulates or subsidizes that doesn't get more expensive. And it's going to get more expensive for the citizens of these neighborhoods. And I don't want to have to come back up here and talk to you guys again when we're having problems, when I'm having to call Randy because that commercial development over there has drawn in an element of crime closer to my neighborhood. I don't want to see that. I hope you don't want to see that. I hope these people don't want to see that. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't get notified that anything was going on with this. It wasn't until I read it in the paper and I heard from the mayor, my representative, and others, and went out and started talking to some of my fellow citizens in Cherry Hill Plantation. Almost none of them knew about it either. There's probably a reason they didn't want people to know about that, because they saw what happened the last time that ball field was going to get built back behind our property, which was going to cause a negative impact on our property values. You got to protect our property values. You report to the citizens. If you don't, there's going to be accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next.
Good morning. My name is Erin Salter-Formaggio. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Bradley Abrant. As Mr. Clerk previewed for you, I'm here today on behalf of the City of Madison. My colleague, Michael Bentley, who is serving as lead counsel for the City of Madison and who presented the city's position at the Planning Commission phase, had an immovable conflict. He had to be in federal court this morning, so you guys get me instead. He did ask, he prepared a written statement, and I have copies for members of the board, and I would also ask that this be attached to the minutes today. So I'm gonna.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that
you can keep speaking.
Okay, that letter walks through kind of the substance of the city's objections to the rezoning petition, but I do want to take just a couple of minutes of the board's time this morning to highlight some of the issues that are raised in that letter. As the board's aware, and as we've already heard today, the property at issue is currently zoned SU1. In that zone, permitted uses include educational institutions, retirement facilities. The purpose of that zone is to support and promote self-contained communities. The proposed rezoning to C2 includes permitted uses as a right, hotels, motels, bowling alleys, car dealerships, mechanic garages, and body shops, as well as a host of conditional uses. Tattoo parlors has been thrown around today. That's one of the conditional uses that can be applied for in a C2 zone. So the question for the Board of Supervisors today is whether under Section 806.03B of its zoning ordinance, there has been an actual change in the character of the neighborhood and that rezoning is in the public need. So to meet that standard under Mississippi law, you can't just fall back and look at the 2019 master plan. You can't just say it was in the master plan to be C2, therefore rezoning is appropriate. That's just not how it works. Instead, Mississippi law requires that an applicant seeking to rezone must show by clear and convincing evidence that change has actually occurred. Not that it might in the future, that it has actually occurred. And that the change is inconsistent with the current zoning plan. The other big key that I would like you guys to focus on is the neighborhood, for purposes of determining whether there has been this required change, must be appropriately defined. Now, the applicant got up here and talked about all of this great growth in Madison County that has occurred over the last few years. But neighborhood, for purposes of rezoning, isn't Madison County generally. Everything that was listed in the petition and everything that was discussed today, all this growth, is between 2.5 and 5 miles away from the property at issue. Mississippi Supreme Court in 2007 rejected a zoning board rezoning when a compared neighborhood was 0.5 miles away. So we're talking even much further away than what we're dealing with, what the Supreme Court rejected as the neighborhood back in 2007. That case is cited in that letter for y'all. So the other thing that the applicant has to do is it has to show proof of change. You have to do that through statistics and evidence. You can't, as I say, just fall back on this 2019 plan. And Mississippi law, quite frankly, requires more than just, we think the need is obvious. You have to support that with statistic and evidence. The petition doesn't have any of that. The presentation today didn't offer any of that. So the standards to rezone just simply have not been met in this petition. Instead, the proof and what we do know shows just the opposite. This is a rural neighborhood surrounded by residential communities. It's retained its original undeveloped character, even as other areas and other parts of the county have undergone commercial growth. That the Parkway extension is going to be built in the future doesn't change the neighborhood sufficient enough to support a rezoning today. The city also objects to the rezoning because the Bozeman Partnership's deal that it will donate the land in exchange for this zoning treatment violates the rule against contract zoning. Mississippi law does not permit a governing body to bargain away its zoning power by committing to the developer's preferred zoning changes. It has to engage in the public process required by the zoning ordinances and state law. So, as I said, this is all set forth kind of in more detail in the letter. There are also 4 exhibits. 3 are attached to the letter. The 4th is the video and audio recording from the February meeting of the Planning Commission. The city's position is that the partnership just has not met its burden to show by clear and convincing proof a change of character of this neighborhood for rezoning. So I appreciate the board's time this morning. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them. Thank you for your time.
Are there any questions? I will say, and I'll speak for myself only, and you mentioned that about bargain. I guess you're talking about the board bargain with the landowner for the zoning. I have never been in a meeting at all where that was brought up.
Okay.
So with that statement, I'm not sure where you received that from, but I'm just going to speak from one supervisor. That has never been brought up in a meeting that I have been in.
Sure. There, and I appreciate that very much. I think there are 2 instances in the letter that kind of explain that a little bit in more detail.
Okay.
What that statement was.
Okay.
Was.
Any questions? If not, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just make one more statement.
Real quick, come on up, Jay.
In regards to what you mentioned and what she mentioned, I believe at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, it was pretty sure it was said by the board attorney that the family had donated land.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was discussion of the donation of land. Nothing to suggest anything otherwise, but
Okay.
there was a donation of land discussed.
Yeah, but that's not what I heard Aaron say. Now, I may have heard her say it differently,
Right.
but I'm just setting the
Right.
record
Just leads to
straight.
the public questioning is all that I would say on that. Just as
Well-
far as, we're appreciative of people donating land,
Sure.
but, because that's certainly gesture, but people also will then make money by developing the land. So the donation of land is kind of a neither here nor there, but typicals, I'm just saying for the record to back her up, I do think at the Planning and Zoning meeting, there was some discussion of the family donating land where the reference was made.
We had people donate land all along.
Sure,
To
sure.
help make this happen. But I want to make it clear again that I have never been in a meeting, talked about, hey, you do this, we'll give you rezoning. I have never been. This is for me now.
Right, and that's why I appreciate, I guess, the comments being made at meetings like that. Nice gestures are there, but those should be off the table anyway. It just should be about the merits of
I
the
agree.
issue.
I
So,
agree with
thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Do you have another? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Obviously not representing anybody but my husband and myself. My name is Pam Smith.
Okay, Pam.
Your address,
We
please.
moved to Cherry Hill Plantation 22 years ago, moved out of Jackson, and have enjoyed a very peaceful, wonderful life. My husband in his garden and, acres that he mows because he loves to do it. And I have nothing against the Bozeman family. I know some of them personally, and I mean, they have grown up in that area, had a very peaceful life, and, they rode their four-wheelers, I'm sure, and hunted on that land, and Miss Minnie's grandchildren had a swimming pool in the backyard, and they had a nice, quiet life. Now, I know things change, and they have sold property for 4 churches, a school. It was a wonderful addition, because my grandson went to Magnolia Speech School, so that's a blessing, and the nursing home. And my husband and I joke, whichever one of us has to go first, it'll be an easy drive, from our home to there. I'm just saying, the attorney talked about all the growth and all the people coming. When does it stop? Do we need another, like Chris said, another Gluckstadt Road? I can leave my subdivision and head north to Gluckstadt Road, 5 minutes. I can be in a grocery store, multiple gas stations, a plethora of eating establishments, or I can go right south towards 463, go to grocery stores and doctor, everything. I don't know, we're kind of, Cherry Hill is kind of, our area is stuck, like, we're not in Gluckstadt, we're not in Madison. And somebody said, oh, Mayor Mary wants us, Mayor Mary wants us. Well, the only benefit of that I can see is she is a bulldog, not maroon and white, but a bulldog. And she would fight for citizens, and I hope you would kind of do the same thing. I don't want to be in the city of Madison. They're not going to give me a new water system without it costing me. I'm shaking because I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry. Because I didn't really plan to speak, but I want you to see this side of it. I'm 73, my husband is 78, and we just don't want to see this coming to us. We want to enjoy the peace and quiet that the Bosemans have enjoyed. And I believe all of those relatives have gone. They've moved on. And they've made plenty of money with what they have sold. I don't know what's to happen with that area. I can't even visualize exactly what it is. If it goes all the way to the reserve subdivision, it's a big area. It's not just Gluckstadt Road, okay, where they have a commercial on either side. This is a big area. We need some kind of protection, as Chris and the other lady said, about what is going there. No, just, well, we'll see it down the road. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm emotional. But I'd never have done this before. But anyway, I'm done.
Did well. Thank you, Pam. Ronnie, did you get all the information from Pam that you needed?
Cherry Hill Plantation, what's your?
Okay, are there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Hey, are there any, hold on, thank you. Come on up, but just hold on. Are there anyone else that would like to speak behind this lady? If you would, just please come up behind, because we want to give everyone an opportunity.
Okay.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Rita Schneider, and I live at 107 Plantation Drive in Cherry Hill. And I have been there, we bought that property in like 91 or 92, so we bought it when Bozeman was a gravel road, so we've been there for quite a while. And as far as opposition goes, I understand the Reunion Parkway going all the way to 51 eventually, and I understand the C2 zoning, wanting to put businesses there and everything like that. And I'm not unreasonable, but I do understand that there can be compromise. And I feel like if there were some way to compromise where the C2 zoning did not begin until it reached over several acres, closer to 55, so that if they wanted to do commercial gas stations or whatever on the exit of 55 or something of that nature, have at it, but leave 100 acres or better, back toward Bozeman Road if you want to do some kind of a compromise in that area. But as far as coming in and, as Pam mentioned, changing the complete atmosphere, you can go down Reunion Parkway from Bozeman to 463. There's a church, there's a school, and then on the other I have Reunion with homes over on that side. I I don't know. Are you going to have zoning in that little area there with C2, you know, what is it, C2? C2 zoning on that side? Is that zone C2, like from Bozeman to 463? I mean, from Bozeman to 463, is that zone
That's in the
C2?
city of Madison there.
Okay.
That would be in the city of Madison. I'm not sure what that zoning is.
Okay, but you understand what I'm saying? When you go that strip, you see churches, schools, and homes. I mean, why can we not see the same thing going from Bozeman to 55? That's my point on there. I mean, why do you want, I agree, we've got strip malls on either side. We don't need one in the middle. So that's my say.
Thank you, Rita. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition? Okay, if not, Ms. Smith, give you just 3 or 4 minutes to rebuttal.
I'll take 2.
Please do.
First of all, I'd like to address the misrepresentation that was made in the City of Madison's presentation regarding some deal that was made between this board and the Bozeman family. I've talked to Richard Skinner and his sister. There's never been one word, not one sentence, about you give us this zoning and we'll give you this right of way. And I don't think any member of this Board of Supervisors has ever been in a meeting where that was done or said or even insinuated. Second thing, the Bozemans intend to cooperate with this board, Planning and Zoning Board, in everything they do. You have to approve everything. There is a process. If you take the argument of the objectors to its logical conclusion, you'd never have a rezoning. You'd never, ever be entitled to one. Everything would have to be undeveloped, residential. Nothing could be commercial. Nothing could be C2. Go up and down the interstates in every state. What do you see next to interstates? What do you see on major 4-lane thoroughfares? You see property that's zoned C2. You have a good plan. It is in place. It is good development. It is good planning. This C2 will stop at Bozeman Road. It will not go past Bozeman Road. It's on the land use plan. It will go from Bozeman Road to the interstate. And it's lawful. The last thing I want to leave with this board is this. Everybody in this country has a right to use their property for its lawfully zoned use. Because you don't like it, or you're afraid it's going to hurt your property values, or anything else. Gut feelings, dislikes, one thing. The law is the other. And that's what this board is here to do. And we again ask the board to rezone it for what is already designated as, which is C2 commercial. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Smith?
I would like to bounce back to what he just said. You have the right to use it for the lawfully zoned use. So what you're saying is, in your opinion, once it's zoned, you have the right to use that property for whatever you feel like in a C2 area.
Well, yes, sir, because that's the law. That's that's your ordinance. That's your comprehensive plan.
And that's why we're here today, is to stop it from being zoned, so we can be more particular about what goes there in the future.
Who's going to be particular?
Why do you think we're here?
Who's going to make that decision?
Planning and Zoning Board.
That's nothing but arbitrary and capricious conduct. The C2 designations are in the ordinance. That's what you can use it for. All we've heard today is worst-case scenarios. There's 1/10 of worst-case scenarios for use of that property as C2 versus 9/10 for good, planned, tasteful development.
So what you said is, once it's zoned C2, he should be able to use it for whatever he feels.
Use it for whatever the county allows you to use it for.
I thought you said the owner.
The owner
Okay.
can use it for whatever purpose the county allows under C2.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions? Any other statements? Chris? I don't usually do this, let you come back up, so just.
I'll be nice this time.
2 minutes, no, it's okay.
Again, Chris Hinkle, 449 Cherry Hill Drive. I live in Cherry Hill Plantation. I want to rebut some of the comments that this individual has made here. When he talks about property owners being able to use the property for what they want to use it for, we do have covenants in place, so we adhere to those in Cherry Hill Plantation. We also have a right as citizens to be free in our homes from things that would impact our homes. That includes impact on our property values. As we've already indicated, we've got plenty of commercial property south on Bozeman Road. We've got plenty of commercial property north on Bozeman Road. I see no driving need for more commercial property, especially something that's a blanket C2. This individual, by the time that thing is developed, he's probably about my age, 60. We probably won't even be here when it's fully developed and see the repercussions of what happens. So we are here fighting for not just our rights right now, but for our children's rights so that they will be safe and secure in their homes. Anytime you bring an increase of commercial entity closer to neighborhoods and people's homes, and Randy will tell you this, I can tell you from 25 years in law enforcement, it increases dangers to those homes because you have a criminal element that comes in. It's better to keep those away from the homes. It's going to make Randy's job easier. It's going to make Gene Waldrop's job easier. It's going to make all of the police departments and sheriff's departments' jobs easier. But when we're talking about bringing this, you notice he keeps talking about everybody except the people affected, which are the people that live in the neighborhoods around Bozeman Road. You can say it's going to be just on that east side of Bozeman Road, but guess what? That's less than a half mile down from the entrance to Cherry Hill Plantation. It affects us. And I haven't been asked for my opinion. I had to find out about it in the paper and then reach out to my representative and my mayor to start asking questions about it. Totally against it. I'm not against commercial development. That's a mischaracterization. That's a mischaracterization of these other people on here. It's the type of commercial development that we want, and we don't want to open the door with a C2 rezoning right now. If you think it needs to be rezoned C2, like Mr. Baxter said, wait till the thing's built out. Let's see what the traffic looks like then. If it supports that growth, then you look at putting in some C2 development. There's no rush and need to do it right now. Let's walk before we start to run. Let's get the Reunion Parkway built, and let's see what effect it has on the community and if that growth is still there. That's all we're asking.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, any other comments before we come out of the public hearing? Do I have a motion to come out of the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Supervisor Griffin. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Banks. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, we just finished the public hearing on this rezoning. Also, Mr. Weeks mentioned item 53. We'll go in this as well. So what are the wishes of the board?
I think we should grant a continuance and allow me as representative of the county to meet with the city of Madison and the developer to develop exclusions or piecemeal this C2 out as the future goes on, elevation to elevation, or at least approve each project independently and not as a blanket whole 350 acres, which is maybe unprecedented. But does anybody else have any suggestions?
Is that a motion?
No, not yet.
This is discussion.
But I do have a question. You know, my question, you know, we from what I understand, we're looking at C2. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What, and this would be the underlying zoning for the property. Upon developing the property, when someone comes in to develop the property and they have a purpose of doing some things that we may feel isn't good for that neighborhood around it or any neighborhood, what gives us the protection to be able to say, no, we're not allowing that use in this particular location.
If you make that determination as a Board of Supervisors, that is what you have to rely on. You have the ability to make that decision.
But you said when we do C2, then whatever's in C2 would be permitted. At what point does the board have, or the community have, a checkpoint? Where's the checkpoint?
Hearings just like today.
Mr. Clark or Mr. Weeks, I think that probably needs to come from the county's aspect. Thank you, Mr. Smith. But, Andy?
A couple of different ways, Mr. Banks, that you could do that is you could have a conditional rezoning, which is right now. You vote to approve C2 zoning with the exclusion of X, Y, or Z, or whatever. Second way that you've got to do that is through your master development plan that would have to be approved, and then you've also got a site plan for each building that is built. Has its own set of construction drawings, you know, the way it's going to look, the exterior facade, landscaping, drainage, all of those types of things are included in a site plan. But your general development plan would be kind of think about that like a plat for a residential subdivision. That's going to show common space, green areas, lakes, ponds, you know, if there's a community clubhouse type thing, and then it's, you know, houses, or be it in this instance would be offices or, you know, retail or whatever. That's all going to be on your general or your master development plan, which requires a second approval after the rezoning from both the Planning and Zoning Commission and you all as the Board of Supervisors. So there are still control measures, I think, is what your overall question is. What control measures do you guys have to protect the citizens? Well, those are your control measures.
Okay, so if what you're saying, then we can approve a C2 zoning with those elements tied to it.
Yes.
So that they have to continue, they will continue to come back to the board for approval on every aspect of this development.
Yes, that's correct. In other words, you can approve this today. Just as an example, tattoo parlor's been thrown out there several times today. You can condition your approval on C2 with the exclusion of tattoo parlors.
Yeah, I'm just going to do that anyway.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have any problem with that. They're probably going to get pushed out because of rental rates on any of that property too.
It's kind of high for a tattoo parlor.
Anyway, that's, if what I'm saying to you makes sense and is responsive to your questions.
Now, I just want to make sure that if I made a motion to approve, I could do it in a manner in which we stay in control of what goes there. I mean, basically, zoning the property doesn't change a blade of grass. It's after it's zoned and someone comes in and decides that they want to develop it. I mean, we got a whole bunch of property that's zoned C2 that's still growing trees and grass and will never be highly sold. And we got property that, you know, is rezoned for residential development. It may never be developed. But we do want to make sure that we have a controlled environment in Madison County, and we've shepherded this growth for, well, a long time. And we're seeing a lot of growth. And I know every time we get new neighborhoods, and those new neighborhoods create a need for some commercial. They might not think they do, but they do, because somebody got to sell them some gas, bread, milk. And of course, people move into these new neighborhoods, and they would like for it to stay just like it was when they drove out there, and the next thing you know, somebody else builds another new neighborhood down the street from them. And it keeps going on and on and on. And everybody that comes in has this thought when they made that purchase that this is where I like, this is the way it's going to be, and I really like this rural look. But we keep on growing, and we keep on adding neighborhoods. And now we're not rural anymore. We're starting to get suburban and headed toward urban. So, you know, I understand that. I've seen it over a long time period.
I think the perfect example, Supervisor Banks, as to what you're saying is this property itself. Yeah. Right now, it's SU1, Special Use 1. But if you drive by there right now, you're going to see tractors and agriculture and crops and all that type of stuff. So in the event that not one thing happens today, and Mr. Skinner wants to come up here and get approved a Jellystone Park, like we were talking about, or a water park, or even a campus of university or any of that type of stuff, he's still got to submit those plans for that property on that use, because it's SU1, to the Planning and Zoning Commission to be approved back up through the Board of Supervisors. Just that's across the board on any sort of zoning designation.
Or a big tattoo parlor. Okay. You know, we're trying to move, I guess, from this step to the next step. Now, and I've always thought that my job up here was to make sure that I protect those people out there. But at the same time, the Bozeman family is part of those people out there too. They have owned land and developed, been good neighbors to a lot of people for a long time. Yeah. And when a person wants to now, capitalize on their investments in Madison County, they should have the right to do the same thing. We just have to make sure that we balance this between the neighbors that have come in now and the people who own the land. So I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and grant the C2, but I want to make sure that the controls are there so that we can shepherd the project all the way straight through to development, and making sure that the protections for the neighbors and neighborhoods that surround it are kept in place. So, and that would be my motion.
What is your motion again?
To go ahead and grant the C2.
Okay. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second, Supervisor Griffin. We still in the discussion stage at
Yeah,
this point. I believe that you have met the requirements of rezoning. I believe that wholeheartedly. We as a board has, over the last 6 months, had very tough decisions to be made on off 463, and we made them, and we're moving on with it, which is going to be good development at that point. This development is really highway commercial development. I totally get your point. Hey, we want certain things to go in that will increase our property values. We all want that. And I think it's dependent upon this board to ensure that happens. But we have to get to the next step along the way to make that happen, at this stage. So I really think you've met your qualifications. And how long has this been going on, this discussion? When did it come in front of the planning and zoning? Okay. And so, and it has been discussed there. Many of you were at the board, at that meeting, I was what I'm hearing. And also, we have delayed it at least one time. And so, this is where we are now. And all of the board members, each supervisor up here knew what was going on along the way. Hold on a second, Chris, along the way. So it's not like it's a surprise to anyone. And I think I heard someone mention earlier, well, I didn't get notified. The law actually states, if I'm correct, Andy, that the landowner has to notify everyone around within 160 feet. Landowner, property owner within 160 feet. That is the state law. So I'm saying that I think I heard you or Scott one say that they met that qualification. They met that qualification. And this has been going on for a while. And, you know, at this point, this is where your supervisor representative comes in play. They come in play, guys, at this point. If they're on top of the toes and they know what's going on, you would be the first people they would contact. If there's an issue or a concern, you would be the first people. And then by that time, you would sit down and work out or try to work out any concerns that you may have. Y'all did bring up some concerns, very legit concerns. But at that point, you can't wait till the last minute and then come up in front of the board and say this. So with that being said, we have a motion on the table, have a second, other discussion.
Well, I wouldn't say it's last minute, it's a public hearing. That's why it's set this way, is for them to come voice their concerns, but you've got a motion and a second. You get to voting, sounds like you guys' minds are made up.
Others?
My district, but you guys are gonna make the decision for it.
And it is in your district, and that's the reason I made the statement. This has been going on for a while. If your supervisor was on top of things in his district, you would have been notified long before then. So, with that being said, we have a motion, got a second. Mr. Clark?
One last thing before you vote. Mr. Banks, you think we were kind of joking around there a minute ago about the tattoo parlor, but if there are restrictions or conditions or any of that type of stuff that are going to be placed on the rezoning, assuming it's going to be approved, that should be voiced now at the time of the rezoning.
And
So
I
if-
would be in favor of supporting something like that if
Yep.
there's a
Right.
motion to be made.
Right. I just want to be clear because we were talking about other protective measures that you could take and all that. So that time is now, but there will also be master development plan, site plan, all that comes, assuming that this gets approved. That will also be protective measures down the road, but restrictions or conditions on the rezoning would be now.
Okay.
And I, for one, would entertain a motion. If you have a motion on the floor that would prohibit certain things,
I'll make a substitute motion for continuance so we can hammer out the restrictions for the C2 zoning.
Second.
okay, that's a substitute motion, that's a substitute motion.
Substitute motion.
Got a substitute motion, got a second.
I don't have a problem with that either, because I do want to make sure the restrictions are in there. I believe that the request to rezone is one that the family should be making. At the same time, I believe that the protections should be there also. So,
No doubt.
I think that is a good motion coming from the supervisor of the district.
I'm in favor of that, but we need to put a time on it, and I would hope the time would be 2 weeks. Is that your time in your motion?
The next week, the next meeting's in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 3
we-
weeks?
yeah,
At
the
the
next
next
meeting.
board
3
meeting?
weeks.
At the next board meeting?
Yeah,
Numerous,
yeah, June 5th. Yeah,
let me just point something out to the board. Substantial negotiations and talks were had between the Bozeman's and the city of Madison. When you try to manipulate what somebody can do and can't do, You want to put spears on a Texaco or Shell gas station? That's called arbitrary and capricious.
Yeah.
And we simply submit that we ought to be able to have time, if any conditions or restrictions would be placed on the C2 zoning, we'd have time to try to work those out or work through those.
Mr.
This is
Smith,
a last-minute thing
this
for
is
us.
between the county.
I agree.
Between the county. And so 3 weeks, we should have plenty of time if everyone is serious. If everyone is serious, in 3 weeks, we should have an agreement in front of us in 3 weeks, one way or the other, as far as the stipulations of what they're asking not to be put in. We ought to have them in front of us. And I want to make it clear, this is between the county.
I agree. Yes, sir.
Now, when you start getting 2 or 3 other agencies in, you're exactly right. We could be here this time next year, you know, but this is between the county, and we want to make sure we do what's right and what's best.
That's fine. Thank you.
So we have a motion on the table to delay to the next board meeting, and when we, in June, and when we come back,
5/23.
won't be a whole lot of discussions with the exception of what was brought up, and this is what we would like to have in the motion as far as items to not to have, okay? No more talking. Miss Andy, I see a hand or two raised up. No more talking. Andy?
Mr. Light, could you clarify the date of the next Board of Supervisors meeting? I've heard the 6th, I've heard the 5th.
It's the 5th.
June
I made a
the
mistake.
5th.
It's June the 5th, 2023 at 9:00 a.m.
And that's a Monday?
That's Monday, June the
Okay.
5th.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir, thank you.
We have a motion on the table. Got a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. Good public hearing. Hope to see y'all on the 5th. Okay, we're going to move on to our next item, which is something we've been working on for many years, actually, and that's item 40. There's our old courthouse, historical courthouse committee, trying to move it forward. We have put many dollars to improve the outside look and some on the inside, but now it's time to move forward with trying to do a little bit more inside to get it in a situation or in a I guess a museum type structure to be able to, for tourism, people to come and look through and be proud of what Madison County is doing and what our heritage is. And to do that, I have on the agenda to appoint Mr. John Wallace as a chair of this committee to think about who needs to be on that committee with the input of the Board of Supervisors and possibly and others, actually. But to get it started and to bring back to the board, you know, I would probably hope in 30, 45 days or 60 days with a suggestion of people to be on this committee to where we can then go to the next step as far as getting our old courthouse set up and fixed up to where we would be proud for the people in Madison County to be able to go through as tourists. So I make a motion to appoint Mr. Wallace as the chairman of that committee.
I second that motion.
Got a motion, got a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. You have your you have your job cut out for you, and I know you'll do well with it. But just touch base with the supervisors and other members, and let's get to work and bring something back to us that you feel comfortable with. Okay. Thank you.
John.
Thanks.
Great choice, Mr. Steen, by the way.
Yes, sir. He'll do well. Item 41.
Did you vote for that too, Jay?
Sure.
Item 41.
I make a motion that we accept the resignation of failure on Camden Fire Department.
All right,
Second motion.
Got a motion by Ms. Griffith, second by Mr. Banks. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, we're actually down to item 52. Mr. Scott Weeks.
Man. Kind of a long meeting, man.
Sorry about that, board.
This week's item 52.
Item 52, Woodgate subdivision. This is a preliminary plat for a new subdivision. It is east of North Old Canton Road and south of Piano Road in Supervisor District 5. Developers are here if you want to discuss this with them.
East and north, east and south.
We're, Mr. Griffin, because it's in District 5. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
They came before the board a while back on a smaller portion of this, and then they were looking at acquiring some more land, so I just told them to compile it all into one plat. They submitted the covenants with this, which you should be able to see.
Yeah.
But
Have they been in front of the planning and zoning, or is that a requirement?
that is not a requirement.
Has-
How many acres are we looking at?
Sir?
How many acres is this?
255.
255, okay.
Has our engineer looked at this? Him?
Have I looked at the development?
No, if you looked at the drainage.
Well, you can't really tell a whole lot on the drainage patterns on a preliminary plat. We'll get into that with the construction plans.
Wait.
How many homes?
I believe there's, well, it's close to 600 lots, if I remember correctly.
Did
Isn't
you
that
get
right?
a Did you get a
594.
traffic study?
We have asked for a traffic study. We have not received it yet. It's in the process of being done.
It's in the process.
Yes, sir.
And these homes are, what size square footage?
I'm gonna let-
I think in the most recent covenants, the smallest is 1420 and up, and then the other portion's roughly 1500 and up.
Okay.
Reynolds?
That would be a question you would have to ask the developer.
Was he here?
Yes.
Who's the developer? Please come up and state your name and give your address, please.
I'm Carl Sandberg. I live at 129 Edinburgh Bend. But yeah, we just put standard language in there as when we met with Supervisor Griffin and Scott and Andy, that this is not a design build to rent deal, but we also don't want to get into a federal issue where somebody says you can't rental. So other projects that we've done in other areas like Brandon, that sort of thing, they've accepted some restrictions regarding rentals, but it's capped at a certain percentage, monitored by the HOA, that sort of thing. But it's not a BTR, as we discussed with Supervisor Griffin.
I can't vote till the traffic study's completed, yes, so I'm out.
What was that, Trey? I didn't hear.
Wait for the traffic study, man.
This, just as a correction to what Scott said, this is only the smaller piece. On March 6th, you approved the big piece. As part of that original design, when we were meeting with our engineer and Scott, they wanted a second entrance that went through this 85 acres is all we're here for today. For a second entrance. Well, we only had an option on that property. We didn't own, we weren't under contract as we were on the 160. And so we didn't want to design and approve and all that stuff and not have that property. So just like we just talked about with all this rezoning stuff, we're not asking for any of that. We're just, before we actually close on the property, we want a master plan approved. So there's zero exceptions as it's zoned, any of that stuff. So we just wanted to, because they were asking us to have that secondary entrance that went through property that we didn't have, go ahead and have it designed and approved.
I understand all that, but the traffic study's pretty customary, so I'm gonna wait for the traffic study for myself.
Especially in that area.
Let me, Tim, can you come back up? He wasn't in that meeting that we had. A lot of houses. Where's that water gonna go?
That will have to be addressed during the construction phase. And that's something I can't tell you yet. Their engineer, who is here, that's part of his responsibility to determine how to keep that water from impacting the neighboring communities. So I don't have that answer yet, but it's not the time in the process to have that answer.
It is for a traffic study.
Well, it is for a traffic study, I agree.
Okay.
I think they're, Ms. Griffin, go ahead.
Well, I think I can't speak for the rest of the board, but I think they hung up on a traffic study now. That traffic study would have to be ordered by us, would have to be ordered by the.
No, they're providing that.
They doing it now?
It is being done now, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, did one of y'all want to speak, or?
On the traffic study?
So they recommended us.
Come and state your name and address.
Nicholas Gallant, 212 Cottage Brook Circle, Madison, Mississippi. So the engineer recommended us do a traffic study, recommended a agency that's, I think, y'all have had a traffic study done on the Andale Road in the past with some planning around that traffic study. So we're actually utilizing the same company that was recommended to do that traffic study, and they are in the middle of that study now. So that's what we're here seeking is just the addendum, like Carl said, to the initially approved phase, because we didn't want to close on this property without having that secondary entrance that was deemed necessary. And we're trying to obviously make timelines and closing deadlines as well.
Okay, thank you.
You think you're gonna have it in 3 weeks? That traffic study?
Richmond Alexander with Engineering Plus, helping the developers. So the timeline we were given on the traffic study was about 5 weeks, that he was going to try and beat that deadline. But, we're probably in week 3, 2 to 3.
All right, I'm gonna just make a motion that we postpone this until we get the traffic study. When you get the traffic study, let Tim know, and he'll put it on the agenda. That'd be my motion.
Got a motion, Mr. Griffith, second, Mr. Banks. Discussion. Traffic study, as Supervisor Baxter has said, is very important. But also.
Got traffic problem now.
Yeah. But also, and I know very little about this. I just was discussed with last week at some point, last Thursday or Friday maybe. But there's some concerns with the square footage of homes as well, if it's true from what I hear, that it's going to be around 1,300 to 1,500 square foot homes. So that's just what I'm hearing, but we can address that as well during this, waiting on the traffic study. So, but anyway, there's some concerns here, and I think that's one of the reasons being tabled, whether it's traffic and/or the sizes of the lots and moving forward. So,
If I may respond to that, we have 0 exceptions with the lots and how it's zoned. And we met with Supervisor Griffin on the square foot minimums and everything, gave him additional green space around the church,
what about
et
the
cetera.
size of the homes? What size that you?
The original section that was approved in March was 1,500 and up. The majority of these homes are that way. We asked for one section that could be different, just for a different price point. And Supervisor Griffin had agreed to 1,420 on just the small section.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and you got to remember I'm one supervisor.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, correct.
We got to try to work with them to get it.
But anyway, that is a concern.
Correct.
Both of those is the size of the house as well. So with that being said, we have a motion on the table and a second to delay it for traffic study and to
more discussion on the size of the home, so we can get everybody.
More discussion on size of the homes itself, square footage. All in favor, say aye. All opposed. Okay, guys, just get back with Tim at the time. Thank you. All right, I think. Have we approved? Have we acknowledged the minutes?
Motion, planning on the meeting.
Got a motion, Mr. Griffith, second, Mr. Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Mr. Espy.
Good morning, still.
Good morning.
Yeah.
This item is a subrecipient agreement between City of Ridgeland and Madison County. You've already approved the use of $2 million in ARPA money to the City of Ridgeland to improve Purple Creek Basin. So you've already approved it, but in order to make it complete, the federal government requires a subrecipient agreement between Madison and Ridgeland. So before you is a subrecipient agreement, you must approve it, and I recommend that you approve it.
I'm moving.
Got a motion, Mr. Banks, I'll second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, Greg?
All right, before I leave, just like the circuit clerk and the tax assessor, I can't sit down without saying a word about Cynthia. I'll be very brief, but as your board attorney before, and as your board attorney during this term, there's probably not a week that passed by where I didn't call Cynthia at least 4 or 5 times a week, asking about historic. You know, what about this? What about that? What happened 20 years ago? Could you please find this minutes from 10 years ago? What was the context of this and that? It made my job a lot easier. She was always polite. She was always willing to expedite the request. When I asked for minutes, I got them back usually the same afternoon. So I know you're moving on. I know you want to be with your family, and that's great. I'm going to personally miss you, your institutional knowledge, your receptiveness, your attitude. Everybody likes you. I kept in your office until we worked out problems, and you know that. So I'm going to miss you personally, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Greg?
Morning, Board. A few
Morning.
things for you. Going to keep them very, very brief if possible. Item 55 is limb pickup, City of Gluckstadt. We have an agreement in place that expires in September of 2023. City of Gluckstadt Public Works reached out to me and was curious if we were interested in continuing that agreement. If there is interest from this board, it does not cost us anything. They send us a request. We send out folks in a truck. They pick up the limbs. We bill the City of Gluckstadt. They pay us. So it does not cost the city, or it does not cost the county anything. If there is interest from this board, I would ask that they direct either myself or Mike to work with the City of Gluckstadt to extend the agreement. But I think they're working out some financial numbers so that they're kind of looking for an answer.
They extended, did they put a time on how long?
They were originally asking for at least another year. I would assume we would do this 1 year at a time until they get a program in place to handle it themselves.
When does this current contract expire?
September 2023.
So we still have three or 4 months on this one then?
We do.
Got most of this summer.
Correct.
September.
Well, you know, I'm sorry.
What about 6 months? Let's try to give them 6 months and see can they get this stuff together.
If that's what the board wishes to do.
Yeah, that'd be a motion.
Got a motion, Ms. Griffin, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Banks, discussion?
Is that what did the city, I know you and I spoke about this last week, but what did Mike, you just speak to Mike McCullum?
Mike McCullum is the one that
What did he ask?
emailed. He, I believe, was under the impression that it would go for a year, but that's up to the board, whether or not it goes for 6 months, a year, or no time at all.
You know, they already have 3 months left, and 6 months, then they can always come back. You know, the way I look at this.
So what month does will be September 23rd, 6 months, so it end?
March, end of March, 2024.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll have a motion on the table, have a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right. Item 56, this is the agreement between MCWI or DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, and Madison County for ARPA fund expenditures related to the wastewater grant. It is not unlike the agreement that Mr. Espy just brought up. It's just this one is between DEQ and Madison County, because when the wastewater authority we applied to do some wastewater authority work, and the agreement has to be with us since we are the ones that got the ARPA funds and not the wastewater authority.
Got a motion by Supervisor Banks, second by Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Item 57.
Item 57 is a task order from Wagner Engineering related to the EWPP work, which has been brought up in these meetings multiple times over. This is just getting the paperwork in order so that we can pay Wagner for the work that they have done and are continuing, well, the work they are going to do, not have done, the work they are going to continue to do.
Move.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Do what now?
57.
What was that motion? I mean, what was the vote?
2 abstentions, 3,
On-
4, and 2 abstentions.
Abstain.
Okay.
Two. Okay.
Item 58.
Item 58 is, for lack of a more elegant way to put it, a prayer. This is to authorize, or a request for this board to authorize the application and the board president's signature on Urban and Community Forestry Inflation Reduction Act grant. Deadline on this one is June 1. The board will not meet again before then.
And what this is, to add to it, it came up, I think, Friday, late, that there was monies out there that possibility can be got for putting out trees and shrubs and all that. And South Spring Park need that. The main thing about it, why we trying to get it approved for you to sign it now, is because June 1. June 1 is the deadline. And it's not any guarantee we're gonna get it. We wasn't gonna even try to apply for it until we find out that the application is just 6 pages long. So we might be able to get 6 pages completed by June 1.
And that is 6 pages, and it includes a forestry plan and a budget.
Yeah.
So it's not the 300-page MCWI application, but there is a significant amount of work that has to go into this. And the reason I'm telling you that is for everyone, including the folks watching, to hopefully temper their expectations. We are absolutely going to try and
So this
fight
grant
hard.
is basically 50/50, or it could be 100% grant.
Yes. Correct.
I think we got it, Mike. I think we got it. I think we on top of it, because it's probably gonna be slim anyway, but you got a motion?
Yeah, that's my motion.
Got a motion, got a second? Discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, that's all for me. Thank you, board.
All right, Nassan?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Item 59 is approval of the budget amendments and the interfund cash transfers.
Move.
Got a motion, Ms. Banks, I'll second. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Items, go ahead.
Item 60 and 61, the generous claims docket and 1 payroll docket, along with invoice number 50723 from Wind Management, in the amount of $3,586.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Supervisor Griffin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Item
62, the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission per diem for the month of May.
Move.
Got a motion, Mr. Banks. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Real quick, Ronnie, we need to enter these.
Yeah, we'll do that. We can do that after you redo that.
What's next?
Number 63, the Fleet Corps claim docket.
All right, we got a
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
I need to make a motion to enter these minutes, or at least acknowledge them. Enter these in the
Acknowledge.
minutes. The lawyer
Enter those in the minutes.
documentation on the Bozeman rezoning. I'll need my motion. All in favor?
Aye. Okay, Sheriff?
I didn't get it.
Mr. Lott, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, let Sheriff go ahead, he's up.
I just need to have a board acknowledge billing of DOC in the amount of $7,906.37.
Got a motion, Supervisor Jones, second by Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
And on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, Miss Cynthia, we're going to miss you. We appreciate you. I know everybody down there that you've put up with over the years, and you've had family work for me, great people. I'm moving out there closer to y'all eventually anyway. We bought a place out there, so you may be getting away from here, but you're not getting away from me. So we love you, and best of luck in all that is in the future.
Mr. Lott, I'm backing up to you.
I could say nothing, but then I'd be in trouble. I've listened to all these people say how bad they're going to miss Cynthia. They don't have a clue. I'm going to miss her every day. All the things that she does. I mean, Greg can walk over there and say, "You remember back 10 years ago?" She said, "Oh, you're talking about this? We'll never have that again." And I can leave the office and not worry because I know she's there. I know the things are going to be done as they should. And she's taught me how to be a chancery clerk, and I thank her for that. And ultimately, it's all been said, but we will all miss you, but not as much as I will all miss you. So, applause for Cynthia one more time. Gina's going to try. Gina's going to try to take over, but God bless her.
You might need to change your.
God bless her.
Change your phone number, Cynthia.
Thank you, Mr. Lott. Old business, new business.
Yeah, I got some old business.
Man, we just
I'm
passed
asking
over.
the committee, I think it was Carl and Gerald, on Bacon Cove. Y'all report with your recommendation.
Ms. Banks?
Well, Gerald and I did go and visit Bacon Cove, and it is basically it's a drive that has multiple driveways off of it. And it's my understanding that the family, different family members, cousins, brothers, sisters, aunts, and it's a whole family out there. Heap of them. Anyway, they're not interested in us coming out trying to build superhighway or even a paved duplication of Mount Pilgrim Road. They just want to have the assistance of keeping them a good passable gravel road that they can attach their driveways to. So, and I know we've got several of those in our rural areas, little roads like that. So I don't see any reason to deny them of having the public situation that we're looking. I don't know what the distance is, but it's not that long. Imagine going from the Mount Pilgrim Road back in there. We probably, heck, I don't know if it goes the full mile. No, probably somewhere around 3/4 at the most. So I'd say we just need to go out and get our engineer to take a look and mark off what is going to be public in that area. And I don't see anything wrong with going ahead and doing that. We're not looking at a high cost problem.
All right, so you saying you're approving it to go wherever the engineer say for the end?
Yeah, and that needs to end. We drove it, but we didn't have no measuring stick.
Yeah.
But it ends that you can see where it ends. I mean, it stops right there. There's two. There's a driveway off to the left, and then there's a driveway straight
All right,
ahead.
guys, y'all gonna make a motion?
So I'm making that motion.
I second it.
What exactly is that motion? Can you help us with this a little bit?
The motion would be to go ahead and make make that road, Bacon Cove, public road, to stop, and that we've had to lean on our engineer, but to stop it at the end of that road. There are two driveways. One that goes off to the northwest, and then there's another one that goes due north.
Can you spell that road
right
for us?
What's the road?
Spell the road.
Bacon Cove.
Bacon.
B-A-C-O-N.
B-A-C, B-A-K.
B-A-C-O-N.
Bacon Cove.
Bacon. Just like bacon and eggs.
Like bacon and eggs. Make it a public road, and you want to.
The description of it is going to have to be determined by our engineer, but because the length of it, but it's a little wide of driveways right here at the end of it, and it needs to stop there.
Determined by county engineer?
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure what all
Well,
was
ask him
said,
again.
just then, but my take on it is there is some other development land that can be developed on that road.
It will keep
So
on.
That would be the reason that I would support it.
Yeah.
At this point. So we got a motion, got a second. Other discussion? All in favor? All opposed?
Okay.
All right, new business? All right, do I have a motion to
Oh,
adjourn?
oh,
Do I have-
I've got some old
Do I have a
business I
motion to-
forgot. There is an individual that came off of the, committee, what we call that committee?
Community Advisory Board.
Huh?
Community Advisory Board.
The Community Advisory Board. It's my understanding that 2 meetings left.
That's correct.
And, I had a name given to me of a person in my district. His name is Broderick Washington. Lives, 203 Middle Road, Flora, Mississippi, 39071.
That's your motion.
And that's my motion to go ahead and replace the person that came off with Broderick Washington.
Got a motion, got a second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn to
Move.
Mr. Banks, do you have his contact
June the-
information you could get to me?
June the 5th?
I'm finna hit you
Got a
with it
motion,
now.
got a
All right,
second?
thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?